Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
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 I like it.
Was there ever any doubt?
No,
No, I don't think so.
no, there really wasn't. There really wasn't. Welcome to the Newbcast podcast for the 10th of March. Happy Mario Day, everyone.
Happy Mario Day!
My name is Miss Michelle
Hi.
Dean. Well, I was joined by Hippopotamus and Dizzy, and our guest,
I was here.
It's me,
Right.
Bolts.
joined by
God.
our guest, FlyinBolts. Oh my goodness. Yes, in case you didn't know, it is Mario Day, and I'm sure that's exactly why you wore that, isn't it, Dizza?
Yeah. What else? What else would possibly prompt you?
I had a hunch. I didn't want to assume. I just had a hunch. I'm like, oh yeah, I see what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've been so excited about this day. I've been telling everybody and being literally the most annoying person on the planet about it. People who don't even know what gaming is are like, oh, okay, so I now know that March 10th is Mario Day. That's great.
I'm just waiting for Pi Day.
I didn't know it was Mario Day. Look, in my defense, I've been up for like 2 hours and 15 minutes.
I have a shame sound effect that I would love to play right now, but only the audience would hear it right now, and the podcast recorded later would hear it. You wouldn't hear it, so it wouldn't do any good.
It would defeat the purpose.
Yes, exactly.
But you can still feel it. You can still feel it.
This is true.
I have no shame. Can I just say that I'm not a huge fan of the Mario games? I don't feel like I need to play Mario Sunshine or Odyssey or whatever else Mario game is that. What are the other Mario games? I don't know.
Wow.
Wow.
Didn't
I
you
know,
come in like second at one point?
Have you no soul?
No, clearly I don't. I thought you knew this already. Look, this is hot takes with Hippo. This is how we start the show.
Wow. Well, guys, with that said, welcome to the Newbcast podcast. God. Tonight we are welcoming our guest, FlyinBolts. Bolts, welcome to the show.
Whoa! There's no G. It's FlyinBolts.
I speak English, Hippo, so
I don't.
clearly.
It's a
Bolts,
combination
welcome.
of Portuguese and Simlish.
Is that what it is? Okay.
So.
I don't have any smart remarks for this.
Gosh, just could you maybe do a quick intro of it for anyone that doesn't know who you are? Like, what do you do? Why we may have brought you here? And after you do that, tell us what you've been playing.
Was that me or does it?
Yeah, that's you.
Go.
That's me.
You're the
Flying.
guest.
Go. Flying.
Oh my
bolts.
gosh.
Go.
So, what I've been playing for games, I've been playing a lot of Elite Dangerous lately, and I've been going on that for, 3 months now? Feels
Something like that.
3
Feels like-
months. Has
Yeah.
it been? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it actually
been
has been.
about
Wow.
It's been 3 months.
Time has flown with that, and I've really started to get into the community and get into the game and get used to it, and I feel like I've caught up a pretty decent amount.
I'm trying not to make a flying joke. Go on. Sorry. Continue.
I mean, there ain't no saucers in it. But anyway, where I come into play probably is more related to what I do for work, and that is a computer networking specialist or systems engineer, whichever you want to call it. I do a lot of work with computers, networking, and the like. So this is just kind of what I do for fun. And gaming is not really any different than the rest of the computer world. You have glitches, you have bugs, you have stuff that needs to be fixed, and you have news.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why I'm hanging out here.
Yeah. Well, I would say that you've got some great insights because of the technical background and whatnot. And yeah, gaming news happens. That definitely happens. And being part of that, part of the scene, and being able to have some insight would be a great reason to have you on. So with that said, welcome. Have you been playing anything else besides Elite Dangerous, just out of curiosity's sake?
I've been doing a little bit of Atlas, which made a splash and kind of flopped a little bit, but there's some arguments there. Arc, Lego games, which I've been kind of disappointed with as of late, trying to play them with other people.
Okay.
And what else? Project Zomboid, we dabbled in a little bit, and Viscera cleanup duty or detail.
Bucket dropping simulator.
Yes.
Okay.
Is the Zomboid server still up?
Technically it should be. I need to look at the billing statement. It should be coming back up here, but it should still be live.
Okay. Sorry, that was totally the same topic, but didn't need to be addressed on the podcast. But my bad.
But
you know me, my brain would be like, "Oh yeah, totally ask him after the podcast," and then after the podcast, to be like,
totally like, that was a fun frame drop. Cool.
"Uh-oh."
We talked about network engineering, and then all of a sudden it's like frames.
Yeah, it's not-
Wait, we don't have to do things? Flyin's here to fix it? Okay!
Yeah, pretty
I
much,
can
right?
fix that. I mean, that's the Great White North happening right there.
All I heard was all my it was Hippo saying that my brain would just go. So,
I mean, that's accurate. It's very
I was just like,
accurate.
wow, that's incredibly descriptive of how your brain would react. And I'm like, oh, those are frames that are dropping.
Well, it looks like the stream is fine.
Yes,
Seems
we're still
so.
here. We're still here. Right on. Project Zomboid and bucket dropping simulator. I've watched the bucket dropping simulator. I just I could hear Hippo's stance on why the game is interesting. Could I hear yours, Bolts, exactly? Please.
For Viscera cleanup
Yeah.
detail? I have to say it's probably about the same as Hippo's. It's just a lot of fun to get into the random situations and just clean stuff up. And I don't think it's so much the cleaning stuff up as the getting a few friends together and laughing as people mess everything back up that you just cleaned up.
So those of you who don't know what Viscera Cleanup Detail is, it is a game where you go into like a space station after Isaac Clarke goes in and kills everything. You're not doing anything but a janitorial service. You're picking up body parts, throwing it in a furnace, mopping the blood up, fixing stuff, basically. Just moving, organizing the giant crates that Isaac didn't break to get the ammo out of, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Plus you're also
if you've
tripping
never heard
over
of Viscera
yourself.
if you've never heard of Viscera Cleanup Detail, that's what that game is.
Accurately named.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's well done too. I mean, there's not really that many glitches or anything. It's kind of simple-ish.
I very much have an argument against that.
Okay.
It is
the funny
extremely
footprints.
buggy. It's extremely glitchy, but that's part of the charm. However,
Exactly.
I would appreciate it if the devs actually went and fixed it, but I don't think they will. Regardless, I still love that game.
That's
I mean,
fair.
I think that
Would it
the
lose?
bugs and stuff are charmy.
Yeah. I think, would it lose enough charm? Or are there bugs that are just so bad that those need to be handled, and then the rest of them you can kind of deal with?
What is going on?
That didn't
Okay,
work.
anyway,
That was a transition.
that was it was.
Ah.
If you were to take away the bugs, I still feel like it would be a very fun game, because at the core, you're cleaning up blood and guts, and it's like a very cathartic situation to begin with. Like you're taking a huge mess and you're cleaning it up, and you're not doing it in real life. And I know that people are like, I don't even want to clean my room. Why the hell would I want to play that? And it's like, because it's not your room, and it's actually fun because you're like picking up body parts, and you're like, you pick up like a whole human. You're like, right in front of you.
Because you don't
And
have
they're
to put
just
out any...
working in front of you too. Your arms don't actually hold it, so It's just twerking in your face. It's great.
Yeah, you
They
don't have to
jiggle
actually
this.
get dirty or anything.
Exactly. You have like these giant rubber gloves on, so it doesn't matter that you're touching nasty, nasty guts.
Mm.
That's such a good way to start.
Let's talk about guts. That's the motto of this podcast. Let's talk about
Let's
guts.
talk about guts.
Not the direction I was expecting us to go into today.
You and I
you
both.
already know this podcast has rails, and less than 5 minutes into it, we're off of those rails.
Wait, it had rails? When?
We started on them. It's where we started, but as soon as we started, we went.
Here's the thing about rails, guys. I'm the one that's supposed to keep you guys on rails. I don't, and I do it on purpose.
I know.
I
know.
purposely do it. I purposely do not leave it on rails all the time because I'm trying to do something. Dang it! And it works the way I intended.
If Michelle doesn't keep us on the rails, we're like talking about weird stuff over here. The podcast show notes are over here. Diz is like falling asleep.
I already see Miss Michelle right now. She's focused in, and she's probably trying to find an article about Surgeon Simulator to try to bring it back to something. I don't know.
I can't play that game. I can't play that game.
No, why not?
It makes me flip my desk.
Why?
I hate that game because it's so
Why?
annoying. Because the controls are so bad, and they're bad on purpose. That's why I hate
That's
it.
what makes it great.
Yeah.
Disagree wholeheartedly. It's fun to watch people though. I will never play it again.
Why?
like Hand
You haven't
Simulator.
explained. What are you doing with Hand Simulator, dare I ask?
You've never heard of Hand Simulator before? Oh, dude, you're literally controlling a hand with WASD, the mouse, and space or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So you're just like, or maybe it's not even the mouse, but your hand is just out in front of you, and it gives you a task like pick up the gun and shoot the target in front of you, and you're like,
I've never heard of this before.
No, I have
really? It's one of those like really low budget indie games, but it's really stupidly fun.
I wonder how fun it would be with one of these.
That would
You
make
could
it
probably
easy.
play it in VR. You could probably play it in VR.
I feel like that would make it so easy, though.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, why would you want to do something like that? That would take the fun out of it, right?
Well, it's very much like Surgeon Simulator, where you control each individual finger, right? And you control up, down, and then sideways, and it gives you a task. Like there is one where you are supposed to pick up a gun and shoot a target in front of you. And I don't know what you're doing, Michelle, but you broke it.
I did break it. Keep going, guys. Keep going.
Okay. Welcome to the audio-only segment of Newbcast Podcast.
Hey, Hippo, do you have a moist?
Is there no? What? Do you,
No.
Well, you know what I meant.
Uh-uh.
Exclamation moist. No.
I have a gasm. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh,
Anyway, yeah, Hand Simulator, definitely one of those rage games. But if you really like playing that type of game, check it out.
I can imagine the programmers for that game getting their
What are they
inspiration from trying to control a hand in a different game and being like, you know what, this is so awful and nobody's going to know how awful this is. I'm going to show them.
Visage. That's all I have to say. Visage. I like Visage. I like the story. I like the graphics. I like the mechanics. I don't like the inventory mechanics. It's literally the most clunky thing I've played last year. It made me rage just trying to pick up and hold a freaking candle, okay?
but it was hilarious when you walked into that room and everything just started raving.
Okay, yeah, that's a spoiler, sir.
Oh,
Spoiler alert.
Oh,
Actually, hold on. I do
mean,
have a
what?
I do have a thing for that. I do have a thing for that. Ready? Ready.
I mean, I was ready when you first said, "Are you ready?"
There you go. Spoiler alert.
Oh, it's so cool looking. I like it.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
It's only 15 seconds late. It's fine.
You're supposed to put those in early.
You're supposed to put the spoiler alert before the spoiler.
Meh. Details. Details.
Right. Psst. So
It happens, though.
so specific on this. Gosh.
I'm not a viewer. I
Whatever.
already played the game.
Yeah. Do you think that these two are gonna play it?
I have no idea. What we could probably do is just find out by welcoming Hippo back to the show and finding out. Hippo, what have you been playing?
So many things.
Oh, really? Please do tell.
That's it. Just kidding. I've been playing a heckin' lot of Viscera Cleanup Detail. We played like 8 hours of that game on Friday. I normally on Fridays I do like a 3 games like different segments because it's like let's get everybody together and play some games together on Friday 'cause it's our community night.
Yep.
Instead, we just played 8 hours and 20 minutes of Viscera Cleanup Detail.
Well.
Good times.
Okay.
I went back and I played Frostpunk. Oh my god, you guys! I missed Frostpunk so much. It's such a great game.
That's right. I saw you playing that. How'd that go?
Very well. Very well.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Until I died.
I remember
Everything was going very well until they kicked me out of the city and everyone died.
I remember looking at a review of it and thinking, man, this is a game I definitely want to get into, and just never took the step past it. What's the mechanic that's got you going?
Well, it's a good question. For me, I like the whole game. I like the art style. Like that's what drew me in. The art style is very much like we were talking about it on the stream. It's like the art style is something of a mix between This War of Mine and can't remember the other game that we were talking about. But a city builder essentially. And so you have to manage. It's like a major management game. So you have to manage your heat levels because it gets very cold and eventually it gets colder and colder. And then the storm comes and it's like negative 70 degrees Celsius. And you can, I think what really, this is going to sound so bad. I think what really captures my interest with the game is that it's so brutal that you can pass laws to eat sawdust, like put sawdust in your soup for your people so that you can continue feeding them because you don't have the food. Or you can literally bury people in the snowbank, and then later on you can do another policy where you can take organs out of their body and put it in people who are sick to heal them.
Yeah.
It's pretty brutal.
Demented is what I was originally thinking with that, but you know.
It's on brand. I love it.
So
you can eat people. I mean,
Hippo,
like I said, on brand. Yep.
anything you want to talk about?
Right.
What do you mean? Moving right along. I covered Dawn of Man. Dawn of Man is a Paleolithic city builder where you start out with basically cave people. They have to go hunting and fishing, and you eventually build up. You get farming. You go through the eras all the way up to the Iron Age. You need to set up defenses because eventually you start being attacked by other tribes. And it's so much fun. The one thing I did realize in the game itself, that the significant issue that I found is that mud is so hard to come by. What? I live on a river and mud is first of all,
Mud.
you can't even pick up mud. It's literally called mud. Not clay, mud. Like I how hard is it to make mud? Like, it should not be that difficult. But it was.
How hard is it to? Yeah, please.
In the game,
Extensive
it's
crafting
impossible.
system. extensive crafting system.
I like it because there's no you don't have to micromanage the people. Like they go out and you can just set a flag down, and it's like a radius around that flag where you can make people go hunting. You don't have to deal with it. They'll just go get the food. You can do it with crops. They just go out and get the crops and plant. It's nice because it's like so much more automated. However, the AI is not the best, and sometimes they die because they just do stupid things. But people die because they do stupid things, so I can't really fault it too much. You're out there by yourself hunting a cave tiger, and you get eaten. Maybe you shouldn't have been out there by yourself.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
That's a fantastic game. It just came out like a week ago. Super good if you're into that kind of game. We played a little bit of Monster Hunter World, The Sims, and I've been really loving Metro Exodus, you guys. Metro Exodus, if you like the Metro series, Metro Exodus is a little bit like the old games, but also open world, but not really. It's like an open map.
Okay.
So you travel on a train, and it just takes you to different places, and you go out and explore and see new things and pick up awesome items like night vision goggles. Oh, so good. But it's really good. I really enjoy it. If you like the Metro series, I love it. The only thing I don't like is that it's on the Epic Game Store only, and Epic Game Store would not give me my 2-factor authentication email, nor would they give me an email for my forgotten passwords. I tried to do that, so I just made a whole nother another account, unfortunately.
Oh.
So all of the money that I used on that account is now gone, which means that I'm probably not going to be giving them any money. So if you have 2-factor authentication with Epic Games, which you should, be careful. That's my PSA.
I feel like if you have 2-step authentication, that should help protect you, not...
It does. It very much protects you.
Yeah.
To the point where you can't even get into your account.
Nobody's getting into that account.
Exactly.
Dun, dun,
I
dun.
remember way back in Division 1, I had to wait about an hour to get back into my Ubi account because they locked me out.
Ugh.
Yeah, I still don't know my original ArenaNet account. And Guild Wars and all of its expansions, original Guild Wars, are sitting over there. Yeah, they're sitting over there, and I can't access them. Not that it would matter too much at this point anyways. But, you know, I went to Nostalgia Trip a few years back, and I went through everything. I even found, like, my old original code for Guild Wars Nightfall, I think it was.
Sure.
Just to be like, hey, this is me. I can prove it. I had this key that I put in. Maybe you can do something for me. And
They couldn't?
No.
Man.
That seems odd. Usually, if you have a game code like that, you should be able to. I feel like I was able to do something similar to get my information in like my accounts. So,
See, what I'm kind of curious about is what they're going to do if someone's like, hey, I had the original Diablo key or the key CD. Now that they've got it out.
Oh, yeah.
I know, me too.
Anyway, I got one more game to talk about.
Okay.
Sorry, I talk a lot, I know.
You know.
I have been playing this game called Plane Mechanics Simulator.
Yes, you
It's
have.
so good. It's so good. I have so many hours in it. Let me tell you.
I was talking about one of the streams I was watching of you playing that because I was beyond amused at how you had a 40s music playlist going and it had the air raid sirens. I was just like, yes.
So I looked up World War II playlists on Spotify.
Yeah.
And I just played it, not thinking anything of it. So I'm sitting at an air base during World War II working on a Spitfire. And all of a sudden I hear, and I'm like, oh my god, what is happening? It's just the music. Oh man. Plane Mechanics Simulator is fantastic. I have 15 hours in it. I've pretty much beaten it. There's only three planes in it right now.
Okay.
But if you if you like the mechanic games like Car Mechanic, it's basically the same thing, only World War II planes. And you get to hear a lot of good times. If you like ASMR, you might like that game.
That is very
Michelle,
What are you trying to say here, Hippo?
you like ASMR, so you must like the of unscrewing things.
I could.
Dizagy! Everybody, welcome to the show.
Dizzo, welcome. How's it going?
I am doing all right. Thank you both for the introduction.
Of course.
Oh goodness, what have I been playing?
Yeah.
So finally wrapped up Final Fantasy VIII, and I have to admit that former little kid Dizagy was less smart than I attributed it until just recently, because
Go on.
We're listening.
because every single thing that I remembered from Final Fantasy VIII could all be referenced to a single FAQ. That was the one trick that I had to knock out every single RPG, and I felt like the coolest kid in the universe. And then I go back to it now, and I'm like, oh wow, this is how I knew about Poo Poo. This is how I knew how to catch aliens, and I would have never figured it out otherwise. This is how I figured out the thing about the lake. Oh, because I checked it out on a website. And
That's how those old games are, though, right?
I mean, they're super early internet. And yeah, there's a lot of those pieces were designed for you to explore and to find organically. And it just so happened that the only way that you could do so at that time was by a strategy guide or by GameFAQs. So really, maybe it was there just to sell that Brady Games strategy guide, because everybody knows that Brady Games strategy guide.
Yep. Unless it was Final Fantasy IX, I mean, then you're better off going online for it anyway. But you know.
But the artwork.
Then buy the art book.
That is true. That is true, and I might actually have some of those now. But 12-year-old me wasn't going to figure that out. 10-year-old me wasn't going to figure that out. That's for sure. So yeah, it was a great time playing it. Definitely appreciating the 20th anniversary of Final Fantasy VIII. Have to age myself a little bit. 12-year-old me. That's accurate. I'm pretty sure I played it right when it first came out. And we got to do a lot of disc swapping, which I haven't had to think about in a long, long time.
Oh, those are the days.
What is a disc?
It's these things that we put in our computer, or used to put in our computers, and machines and other things, and mostly AOL gave them to us, I think.
The shiny coasters.
I just use this.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, don't worry about little Dizagy. I'm a 33-year-old man. I would never figure that stuff out. So.
But yeah, it was cute. I have tried to play a little bit of Mass Effect, and then I've been fighting back and forth with Origin about actually being able to use their client, which I think is interesting.
Oh.
Really? Do tell, because I thought that Origin had gotten better over time, but clearly, I've had a couple of instances where I've had issues with it as well. So I want to hear what you have to say about it.
Realistically, it's going to be uninstall the program, put it back in. They had no problems with, me logging in to purchase from the web browser. Like, that part was great. That was super easy.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, the app that actually allows me to download the material has issues and wouldn't allow me to log in, whether it was me or any other login possible. So, got to uninstall that, reinstall that, and I've been lazy and mostly bitter, so I haven't done it yet. But I'm sure it'll get worked out. Just another one of those kind of small pain points to be unappreciated about having all of these different installation systems that are now creeping up on our PCs.
Yeah.
It's a story in itself.
We do have a story. It's in the show notes. about this very thing.
A little bit, yeah.
Anyway.
So instead of that, I've been playing Dragon Quest Builders, and instead of playing any other game,
I bought that game because of you. I enjoy it.
I am glad that I have influenced you. Go enjoy. It's
I bought
well
it for the
worth
Switch.
It.
Yeah,
Yes.
I bought it for the Switch. So much fun. Just playing in bed, going, "Wee, I'm not going to bed." I already have issues with going to bed.
It's the absolute best. If I wasn't streaming it, I would definitely be playing it during my lunch, and I love those sorts of games on the Switch. The controls are reasonable for it as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're not trying to fake some touch controls and everything because they can.
Yes.
Which I definitely appreciate. I could see a lot of games doing that in that sort of design, and they don't need to. Unlike The World Ends With You, where all of the controls are awful, and you really shouldn't be doing it with anything but touch. But that's the other game I've been playing.
Whoa! Did you just say butt touch?
That's what I heard.
That's what
Continue.
I heard.
I'm sorry. Continue.
What?
I had to stop.
No.
I had to stop.
No. Nobody heard
Can
that.
we please change the title of this broadcast to butt touch?
Do we have a lewd stamp for this? Kind of like the spoiler 10 minutes away.
Yeah, just butt touch in the middle between all of our cameras. Perfect.
We've all actually been spoiled by this.
It's true. We have.
So
Just pay no attention to the marquee down at the bottom. I mean,
now discussing butt touches.
So, to close that part of the conversation as quickly as possible, The World Ends With You is an amazing game that is absolutely horrendous on the Switch. I cannot stand the way that the controls are, especially having played the original game. I am, at this point, playing it purely to get through to see the secret chapter at the end that nobody has played if they played the 3DS version, and be ready for whatever sequel comes up. And I already have it, so I might as well. Great on touch controls. I wish I could stream it, but there's no functional way of doing it because you have to use a controller at that point, and the controls are disgusting at best.
oh, fun.
So, thus the streaming of Dragon Quest Builders, and it has been a blast. It's that nice combination between if I want to create things and play around with my town, I can do it. If I want something a little bit more structured, I can go ahead and do some of the events. We just wrapped up our first city, and we will start on our second one here sometime in the near future, so that'll be exciting. But you can also go back to those earlier areas. So if you're like, oh, hey, my Cantland over here could totally use some of the items that I found from this one random palace that I may have swiped some blocks from, you can do that. And you can do that at any point, so you don't feel like you're forced into one direction or the other. Create when you want, progress the story when you want. It's just beautifully made that way.
Yeah. I kind of wish that I got it on the PlayStation just because the controller would be a little bit better. 'Cause I'm not very partial to the Switch feel in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just because I'm not used to a mobile gaming platform or whatever.
Mhm.
So I don't really. I'd rather use like a full-on.
Pro controller,
Yeah, I haven't bought it yet, but I plan on it. Yeah.
butt touch, and random grabs. Wow,
Sorry, this is my fault. This is my fault. Continue. Just forget about the
But
lewdness.
don't you have a phone?
When is that coming out, by the way? Because I do want to try it. I want to see
wow.
how. I want to see people. I want to see how bad it is or good.
Great question.
I have no idea.
It doesn't. It doesn't say.
They probably canned it after that.
I will agree. Having a full-out controller is a good idea. I swore that. Did that train go back on the rails? It's crazy.
You brought it back.
Yeah.
I derailed it by talking about butt touches and lewd stuff. So.
Yeah. So Pro Controller, absolutely awesome. Definitely worth it on that. And I do see that dilemma of like, well, I can use it as a mobile platform, but it's not as comfortable to use as a mobile platform. Maybe it'd be better. But if you have it on the PlayStation, you might as well just take your Switch, put it in the controller or put it in the dock.
That's what I do.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine and good. It's good in a pinch. I do think that Joy-Cons may consider a revamp for hands that are larger than an 8-year-old's. That would be nice.
Agreed.
But overall, I still think it's usable even when you're not.
No, it's definitely usable. You can definitely play. I'm not comfortable playing for like a long period of time. That's all.
That is fair. Yeah.
Although to be fair, the battery only lasts like 2.5 hours. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could play The World Ends With You, where literally I just take the Joy-Cons out. It requires you to have one of them listed, and then just take it out and then just use like a tablet.
Oh.
Or maybe like any of the other tablet versions of The World Ends With You that you could actually play on tablet or on mobile. Man, I am upset about that game.
Easy there, Dizza. Just breathe. Just relax.
World end with that game.
It won't. And that's the best part.
All right, on. Anything else you've been playing, Dizza?
That's been the important stuff.
Okay. Right on.
What do you got going on?
Well, besides Elite Dangerous again and flying into the galactic butthole, I made it to Sagittarius A this past week, which, depending on how you look at it, it looks like very obscene things. I had another person tell me that it looked like a parasitic egg, which I thought was rather interesting. And I actually had pictures of a parasitic egg to compare Sagittarius A to, and it was oddly accurate.
How does one get to the point where they know that those two are going to look similar?
My screenshot and a biochemist.
Oh?
So that was the overlap where it was like, this looks like, and apparently she took the screenshot around her lab and was showing other people, like, doesn't this look like a parasitic egg? And they're like, yeah, it kind of does. I'm like, so now we know Sagittarius A looks like a parasitic egg. There you go. There's your lesson for the night. So I've been doing that. I've been contributing to the community goal because there's a station that's going up there. I'm in the same spot as the Distant World 2 expedition. So since I figured I'm in the same neighborhood, I might as well just help out with the events that are going on there to build the space station up. I want to help them get a shipyard out there so I can get a Sidewinder just to fly it into the black hole.
I don't think it does damage to you. You could just fly into it.
That's
pretty
the
sure.
story I've been hearing too.
Really?
Well, I mean,
Really?
FlyinBolts and I were flying with another commander, and he flew directly into a black hole. And you would think, oh, he died. No, he just got pulled out of Super Cruise, and then he still went towards it. And at some point, you can no longer go towards the core of it, I guess, and you just stop. I'm not trolling. This is not a troll. He didn't die.
Huh.
I mean, if you try and jump back out of it from that point, yeah, you're gonna toast your.
Yeah, you're gonna heat up. You're gonna heat up. But I mean, if you're taking your time, like
interesting.
He took like 20 minutes, and he just was like, I'm not going anywhere. And then like the light, he took a picture, and like the light was streaking in weird ways and stuff, like God rays. It was interesting.
Maybe just that by itself would make it interesting to experience it, but I kind of want to just have that moment to be like, so I flew a Sidewinder into Sagittarius A. ...
So I'm kind of curious though, if you take a Sidewinder in there, I understand that's only like less than 100,000,
like 20,000 credits or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
But if you just strip down your ASP and put all the modules at the station and just fly that in there, what's the difference? I mean, that's only what, 100,000, 200,000.
The difference of 80,000 to 180,000 credits.
I mean, Depends on how many credits you're willing to drop.
Dude, Frontier just throws credits at you now.
Well,
Like, it's so easy to make money now. Back in my day, we had to walk uphill 3 miles in the snow to get to our ass just to get into it.
I heard to get to my ass, and I'm like, no, and I marked it for a clip and everything, so we can confirm later.
We have significant butt problems in this room today.
Oh my god.
That's the new name of my band, Significant Butt Problems.
That's probably a pretty good one. The question is it going to be heavy metal?
Anyways. No, because it's a Sidewinder. Like, I get what you're saying with an asp, but
I'm sorry, what?
You heard me announce it that
there was clarity in that statement.
but I wanted to just be able to say that I flew into Sagittarius A with a Sidewinder. So that's my goal. That's what I want to do. Then I'll fly back to the bubble and start doing stuff there. So yeah, Elite. I've been playing. I got finally got a chance to play Jurassic World Evolution. Excuse me. Which
tell me your thoughts. I want to hear this because I played that game at launch.
I thought it was kind of fun. I felt like that first island, once you got into the swing of things, got pretty easy, so you felt comfortable with it. But when you got to the second island to start working on a park, like, it just freaking brick wall of difficulty, and it's like, where did that come from? Yes,
the second park, yeah, I could see that. It is a little bit more difficult.
Like, out of nowhere, all of a sudden, like, I'm losing money. I can't make any money. I can send out an expedition and sell some stuff off, but all that money's gone right away again. And of course, if you have ROI for a park, the first island should cover the second island easily, but no. Yeah,
they're completely separate.
Yeah, it's like, come on now, you're the same company, you're the same organization, which means you have the same revenue stream, which means that the whole point of the first island is to cover the research and development and growth out to the second island, but that's not how it works. And
I agree with you.
Clearly,
I definitely agree with you. When it comes to that aspect, when I played it at launch, the only real issue that I had was just trying to keep the dinosaurs in the damn thing without them trying to break out constantly.
Haven't had that problem, but I don't think you had that problem on the first island anyway. So
no, the first island is so easy compared to like the third and fourth. Once you get the sandbox unlocked, that's when the game really. Well, I guess it unlocks after you beat the first island.
Oh, well.
Where you get like 5 stars or something like that. But if you continuously play the islands and get better and better scores, you get more and more things unlocked for the sandbox. And the sandbox is the island that the original Jurassic Park happened on.
Okay. See, and I guess the other thing I didn't care so much for is how if you go from one island to the other island, time freezes. Like, it just freezes. It doesn't. You don't continue to make money, or
yeah.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
It just freezes, and I'm not a fan of that either. Like, I want to be able to go work on the second island, lose money, and make a ton more on the first island, but no, I can't. It stays frozen. It doesn't. Overall,
that game is also made by Frontier, right?
Yes, that's another Frontier game. Which is why I thought it was funny. It's like, so for the first time on stream in 3 months, we're playing some other than Elite Dangerous. And oh, by the way, it's still by Frontier.
Frontier makes some pretty fun games. I feel like they took the Planet Coaster engine and made Jurassic World Evolution, which I'm not mad at. I actually really enjoyed that game. And now talking about it kind of makes me want to go back and play it.
Yeah, no, I mean, overall, I had fun.
Game on Twitch?
It's not as viewed as it was, but I found that the people that would come watch me do Elite
but people are live with it.
Okay. I mean, it went better than I expected, and I was saying that in your channel that night too. Like, I expected no one to show up, and it was a pretty typical night on this channel, which was great. So,
well, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's always good to hear you guys doing well, playing games that I really, really love. So, Elite Dangerous, Jurassic World Evolution. I have so many hours in that game.
Well, Ellie, it's been such a fun game, and of course I got so many other people like, please tell me more about this game. It's like, oh, where do I start?
Did you guys ever play Astroneer when it came out?
No, I never did get a chance to play Astroneer.
I did a few hours of it on stream. I don't know the week that it came out, but I haven't put enough time into it. Planning to do some more of it coming up in, I don't know, a week or two probably.
Yeah. So I haven't played much of that. The only other things I've been playing is I've popped in with some friends of the channel, playing Apex with them still, and realizing how bad I am at Apex. But it might have something to do with the cheaters that recently got banned. I don't know.
I haven't gone in yet.
That transition, though.
Well,
that transition.
I was gonna say it's that, or talking about the fact that the other thing I've been playing is Diablo 1, which I found out actually plays well on my Surface 3 Pro. So, a fun little tidbit. Diablo 1 plays on a Surface tablet.
But do you get touch controls?
No. Well, I was using or clicking, because I was doing this while doing something else last night. You can use that, and that worked. So.
Okay.
With Diablo 1?
Yeah, because it's just a touchpad mouse, right? So you got that, you click.
Braver soul than I.
That's impressive. I don't think I pulled that off with Diablo.
Well,
No, same here.
I had that with another mouse that was actually moving. I just had that mouse there so I could click, so I'm not going, because when you have
You
it,
can just hold down the button.
well, not when you're attacking things.
Wait.
I thought you could, but maybe not in Diablo 1.
Yeah, Diablo.
In the second one, you can.
The second one you can, not the first one.
Yeah, okay.
And if you have a GM talking about what you're doing in game, you don't want to click, 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 because the GM will kill your character, and I didn't want that to happen. Because I was also doing D&D last night. Yeah. So,
Multitasking.
That is multitasking.
yeah, right? It worked. I was snipe killing demons, and I was killing demons in Diablo. It was great.
You should take a look at the Discord.
I should take a look at the Discord.
Yeah. I think the cross application would be very concerning, though. Like, I would start using D&D spells in Diablo if I could.
In what way?
Lightning bolt.
Polymorph. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, jeez. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. I mean, there's some
Anyway.
other things. I've just been starting to really get into tabletop role playing. Like, I know people have been doing that for years and years and years. But I'm starting to get an idea as to how people can break systems.
Have you talked to DMs at all? There are some of them, or a lot of them, that are good that will actually let you put something like that in.
Not a ton.
Okay.
Really, it's just within my group right now, and I've only got one group, and I'm keeping it that way because I do too many things already. But
Yeah, I totally get that.
See, I was it's 3.5, right? We're playing 3.5. We're playing a fantasy world and everything. It's just that my party had jumped off this ledge to do something, but I stayed up on the ledge, and I'm a sorcerer, so I was just like, all right, I can see everything from here. I'll do a fireball down there and a fireball down there, arcane missiles down, or magic missiles down there, lightning bolt over there, and I had the range to hit everything, so I was literally sniping last night. I had a lot of fun doing it.
that's not bad.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, the transition that we were talking about earlier, one of the things that we were talking about is so Apex Legends had a cheater issue. 355,000 accounts have been banned from Apex Legends for cheating.
I remember watching who was it? Flowers, like from the old COD days, was just randomly streaming, and apparently he's trying to get himself back into it through Apex, and I think it was every other game he played. He was like, I'm pretty sure that person's a cheater. The way that they're playing the mechanics and things, and no system to report, no clear way to do it other than just be good enough to beat them anyways.
I feel like those. Okay, so I understand that people are annoyed with it. However, the game just came out. It's free. And of course you're going to have issues with Apex because it's a BR game and it's a very popular BR game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it is definitely the next evolution of BR games. Like I have never played it. I've watched people play it a lot. And the movement speed is and just like the movement alone feels good. It feels like it should. All the other BR games are like, I'm very stiff and I don't really have animation and I'm just kind of doing a motion, but like that game actually feels like you're moving, it's fluid. The game, like the gunplay is good, all that good stuff, but you're definitely gonna have cheaters in every one of those BR games because it's just a really popular game, and that's just what's gonna happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's unfortunate. I mean, there was the same problem with PUBG. There was the same problem with Fortnite. I mean, it's going to happen, especially with those massively popular games. It's just, yeah, it's good to see the developers take an active role in making sure that those cheaters don't ruin the game and they try to actually ban them.
I mean, they banned what, 355,000 accounts?
Right.
They're working on it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to take some time. It's a huge undertaking. Just think, even if you knew those 355,000 accounts were cheating, how are you going to stop that? How are you going to ban those? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and one of the big things, like you said, it's the popularity, but it's also the engine behind it. It might not have anything to do with how the servers are handling it. It might have to do with more where the operations are occurring. And because of the requirements and requests for such low latency gameplay, you have to do a lot of these calculations on the fly, and you have to make assumptions when you're saying person A shoots person B. Well, maybe that's not what exactly happened on the server, so now all of a sudden C shoots A, who shoots B. And what happens?
Yeah.
No one really knows.
I mean, the developers are far more intelligent than I am, but I can tell you that they're working on it. I mean, again, I've never played the game, but I'm defending them because I think that they've made a good game, and I think that it's a brand new game. It's gonna have some issues. They're gonna get through it.
And yeah, you know what? And there's a lot of things about the game I enjoy. I actually find that when I'm playing like Destiny 2, I go to slide and I'm like, I want to slide like I do with Wraith though, because I love running and sliding and running and sliding, then shooting and sliding and whatever. The way that you move and mechanics handle with the game, like I really enjoy how the game plays and whatnot. And Hippo, I'm with you. I completely agree with you. I completely support how well they've been handling and addressing a cheater issue. I mean, how long has the game been out? A month? A little over a month?
Less than a month.
Something like that, yeah.
Well,
less than a month official, and they've banned. I mean, it's just under 1% of their total players.
It's been longer. It's been longer than a month because
February 4th.
Yeah, I was gonna say because on the February 10th episode of the Newbcast, we were talking about why it took off, because I know Hippo was on that episode too. So I knew it was at least a month.
My eye was swollen.
Yeah, right. I remember.
It's still a little swollen, but I'm better now.
But the fact that they've taken that active role and swung that hammer that hard and that early on, I mean, good on them, and I hope that supports.
It shows.
Yeah,
they're working on it.
They are working on it. I'm glad to see that. I really am. So, as far as like other news though, like I just feel like it's hot takes on news and stuff that we've seen tonight.
I don't care for Mario games.
God,
Why
you
are
are
you
horrible.
doing this? Why are you hurting my heart so much tonight?
Well, I'm bad at platforming, so
That's okay. Mario Kart is still a thing.
I play Mario Kart.
Yeah, I know that's one of the things that they're looking to celebrate with is Mario Kart. What about the news with the Division 2 and that little tidbit? Any thoughts on the fact that Division 2 will only be available from Ubisoft and from the Epic Game Store?
This is an
So,
interesting move. Yeah.
It's kind of different, but it's not unexpected for me because in reality, the original Division, it was available elsewhere, but you could only ever play it through Ubisoft's player.
But it's so Ubisoft. Ugh.
I personally, hi guys,
Hi.
welcome to the Newbcast podcast segment of Hot Takes with Hippo. I don't care. I don't care. It's annoying that it's on the Epic Game Store, but at least it's on something besides that. I know some people play it on the first one on Steam, but it opens Uplay anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not a big deal for me as a content creator. It's not that big of a deal because when I think of that game, I think Ubisoft Uplay. So it's easier for me to just think and go there.
But it's
I can understand
Uplay.
why it's a Uplay. It's a Ubisoft game. But I understand like the annoyance from like a consumer standpoint. I definitely feel you on that. And look, I'm very I'm really iffy with the Epic Game Store, just because of the stuff that I've had issues with and what they've done with Metro. I'm kind of like, I'm gonna keep you guys off to the over here. They're trying so hard. Like, it's an aggressive stance on with developers like indie devs and trying to get content creators in.
Mm-hmm.
And it, maybe I'm just being paranoid or just kind of like squeamish for whatever reason, but to me, in my opinion, it feels a little aggressive. And as somebody who takes streaming very seriously, that kind of aggressive standpoint on trying to bring devs in and trying to get content creators to work with them makes me kind of go, ooh, I don't want anything to do with that. I'm gonna be over here. I'd rather not try to sell games and stuff for them, you know?
So I'll be honest, like I haven't purchased anything from the Epic Game Store yet because of some of that exact stance on things. In fact, the only reason I open it is either to play one of the few games that's in the launcher instead of my Steam launcher, or to get one of the free games that they're offering to add it to my library because it's free and it'd be stupid not to add it to your library.
Yeah, I agree. I played Satisfactory. I don't know if you guys have heard of that game. It's like super big right now on Twitch. Satisfactory looks great. It definitely takes a lot of resources on your computer, as like your graphics card and stuff, but it looks good. It's fun, but it's also only on Epic. And I don't know if that's the plan for release.
Would you say it's satisfactory?
So far, yes. I've played about 5 hours of it and pretty much got everything unlocked. Not everything, but a majority of stuff unlocked. It's fun. I don't know the longevity of it because they capped like all the stuff to a certain point because it's like the free beta weekend. Satisfactory is a game where you land on an alien world and you build a factory to build more components and a base and stuff like that. And there's wild animals that try to kill you. There's wild animals that are just docile and kind of do their own thing. There's spore clouds and stuff like that that can kill you if you walk into them. A lot of exploration on the planet and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I would compare it to Factorio, wouldn't you?
Factorio's like top down. I guess it's kind of like that. Satisfactory is 3D first person. Points for the devs for actually giving you a human body. When you look down, you actually see your body. This is like, if you guys know me, then that's like one of my big my big things where if you look down and you have no body but you have hands like right here, what are you doing? Viscera cleanup detail.
I see. I thought that was going
I
right
have
back to
hands that are
Elite.
they're like this.
I thought that was just
but
going
I have
back to.
no arms.
I thought that was going right back to Elite.
Yeah, but they give you a body.
Elite Dangerous too. But yeah, when you look down at when you're in Elite, you see a body.
Right.
Why is that so hard? I mean, I guess it's not really necessary, but it's just one of those little things that makes me go, why don't I have a body? I don't have legs, but they're hurting. I snapped my cankles. I don't even have ankles, but I snapped them.
Well then, guys, that was interesting, right? Oh, gosh. So I guess final thoughts on the exclusivity to Uplay Epic Game Store, because I have a feeling this is not going to be limited to just the Division as more games come out. Thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that.
The biggest thing is to compare it to other systems where things are very, very controlled with price. And my first thought goes to Nintendo with their branded games. The fact is, you rarely see a price drop on a Nintendo game within the first year of the game being out.
You never do.
And so
Yeah.
their interest is to keep that price as high as possible and maximize what they've got on their end. Which, on one end of things, sure, they're a company, they can make their own decision on that. That's fine. And realistically, they can probably get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate. It's another step towards the anti-consumer end of things. Having more options is good as a whole, just for pricing purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a little disappointed, but I don't think it's ever going to get to the point where doing something like that is going to keep somebody from purchasing the game that they want on that platform. I see such a small influence on that companies will probably continue down that path.
Fair enough.
It's never stopped Nintendo.
I kind of agree with that, but I see Nintendo as kind of the Macintosh of gaming. They come out here, they give you the platform that works. Tell me that there's a Nintendo that has ever had a heat issue, ever. But the thing is that they have their app store, they have their apps, they have their games, they have their hardware, and if you do anything outside of that, your warranty's void.
Yeah.
So
it's still, in my opinion, it's a very late 90s kind of mentality still. It's not evolving. It's very much stuck in their ways. And that's something that I don't know how long they can last with that. Although, I mean, they've gone so long. But
Mm-hmm.
it's good and bad because they are still
I
solid.
definitely agree. Yeah.
But the thing is that they'll keep putting out that linear line of games versus, going up and down like everyone else. So is it good? Is it bad? I'd say they found a good equation that works for them, so why wouldn't they just stick with it?
Yeah, that's another thing, is they're very much like, this works, so why change it? But I don't know if they would change it even if something wasn't working.
I mean,
they're like constantly like that, right? It's like the Sega issue when it comes to content creators on YouTube. They're like, oh, I know this is good for me, but we're gonna take your video anyway.
Well, that was Nintendo and Sega, but yeah.
And Nintendo changed.
Well, after how long? I think
some time,
the
yeah.
Sega one comes from direct copyright strikes versus like just taking the revenue from the video. So
Didn't Nintendo have something where it was like they were going to try to work with content creators? I vaguely remember something like that from a conference.
Yeah, no, they had their own affiliates program where you can create stuff. So basically, they were an MCN for Nintendo products, even if you had an MCN. So you got such a small portion of the cut from that. Like, there was no reason for anyone would even want to consider doing it. But that's what they insisted on doing until recently. I think I think we do see some changes in way Nintendo, as far as like Nintendo though, like in the change of practice and stuff. I mean, you saw mobile games come out of nowhere because they were having a constant drop for a few years. You saw Amiibos come out of nowhere because they had a bad few years. There were things they didn't get negative press. So because they didn't get negative press at all, it was like, well, yeah, that happened. That was a thing, and it worked for them. So I mean, they have changes too. It's just they play it so well, and they don't showboat it enough to be like, you have to do this thing or it's only this way. It's they went about it in a way that works, and it still works. And there's much like Apple, to Bolt's point, you know, there are people that have the view that in their eyes Nintendo can do no wrong.
I know somebody like that. They happen to be in chat right now.
Is this the part where I look up?
No, not on the. They're not on the podcast.
Oh, okay.
I'm willing to call Nintendo out on bad stuff when it happens, and there were some things in the past, and I think they've learned from it, but somehow they still retain kind of that Teflon effect of, even though, you know, the Wii U was what was that thing? That wasn't really a Nintendo thing. The last couple of years was just kind of rare, you know.
Well,
but now Nintendo has something good really going for them, and they can't be beat.
So let me ask you this, because you know the conversation has shifted to Nintendo and how they can't really, the things that they've done, and swing that back towards Ubisoft and how they were able to do what they are currently doing with the Division 2. Is this a stance that will work? I mean, can we do this? No thoughts?
I think Ubisoft isn't Nintendo.
Clearly.
We will find out.
Really?
We will find out how much that difference is.
I tend to agree.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think... Look, Ubisoft has done really dumb things in the past, like business-wise, and they're still around. They're still kicking. The thing is, like, they make decent games, but they make poor business decisions.
Oh, they do other
like,
dumb stuff too.
Anti-consumer.
Well,
yeah, I mean, but like anti-consumer.
Like, did you know that it was really hard to draw women? Because that was a thing too that Ubisoft said. I mean,
wow,
very dumb thing.
That one.
Yeah, that was a thing that they. Somebody, I don't even remember. Was it Assassin's Creed that happened with?
Yeah, it was Assassin's Creed.
I mean, look, they've said stupid things. They've done stupid things, but they're still around because they make decent games. It's just they say and do stupid things sometimes.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, that's good. I mean, like they're right. I mean, there's a lot of people working for them. Eventually, someone's gonna say something stupid. It's gonna happen. They're gonna make bad decisions.
You mean like any other company out there?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, right.
The problem is that the gaming community as a whole is very, very mob mentality. So if one like small group doesn't like something, then they'll kind of go bah! And well, you see it outside of gaming too, though.
Yeah.
Just look at Twitter.
Whoa, that opened up a giant rabbit hole.
Yeah,
I have
right.
to be very careful about holes in this group. A giant rabbit hole.
Full circle.
That's it for me.
Full circle. That's impressive.
That's enough internet for today.
Sorry. I'm sorry,
Okay,
Hippo.
I'm back.
Oh. That few moments without you, Hippo, that hurt. That really hurt.
So
I'm sorry. Well, I'm back now.
So okay, let's shift gears a little bit. So I mean, we've beaten this into the ground, but how do we feel about certain games coming back out on platforms like GOG? Kind of looking at the announcement that Diablo came out of nowhere and was suddenly released on GOG. So that's a Blizzard game that's not on the Blizzard launcher. It's sold to a different launcher, and it's a 24-year-old game. Go.
Yeah, I did find that interesting that it came on GOG. I'm not against it. I like GOG. I like no DRMs. I like that the problem with GOG is that it's just a bunch of older games. And you guys know me. I can't go back and play older games because that polish isn't there. That quality of life that you get in the second or third iteration of a game series is not there in the first. You see where they were going with it, but it's usually like clunky or not thought out quite as well as you'd want because it's the first one of a game or whatever, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, all the menus get messy and you have that feeling, especially going in like, oh my gosh, I remember how absolutely amazing this was. And then when you start slogging through the nitty-gritty details, you wonder how on earth you ever appreciated it in the first place.
So, yeah, I mean, I definitely support GOG in that kind of company, though.
I'm a little bit surprised that they put it out on the GOG launcher instead of putting it out
right
Blizzard. That's the move that surprises me. I'm not surprised.
I don't know why.
I'm not sure why either, but especially since like the Blizzard launcher has like Diablo 2, has the original StarCraft, and they put other legacy games on there. I'm trying to remember if Lost Vikings is an option too.
Well,
I don't think it immediately is. But
it wasn't just Diablo that came out though either. Wasn't it the original World of Warcraft?
On GOG?
Sorry, not World of Warcraft. Warcraft.
The
Warcraft 3.
Well, Warcraft 3 is going to be coming. I don't think it's out yet. But that's going to be on the Blizzard launcher still. That remake of 3, and it's a remake. It's not the original 3. It's a remake of 3.
I wonder why they did it on GOG. I have somebody who streams for GOG. I know them, so I could probably ask. I don't know if she can actually answer that though.
Yeah, I mean, I would be very intrigued to know what led to that decision. Again, the fact that it's DRM free, the fact that I have a copy of it now on my desktop here, and on my Microsoft Surface Tablet Pro is great. I love the fact that I could do that and have like, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and play this on. I could take it to lunch tomorrow. While I'm on lunch, I could play Diablo.
Yeah. It's the new Skyrim, really.
Kind of the new old.
Oh man, Skyrim is definitely, for me personally, Skyrim is one of those games that doesn't hold up with time. You need mods. You need it. Like when it came out, I was like, this is amazing. And then a couple years later, it's now 2019, 8 years later, I'm like, it's
it has its moments though. I won't kid. Like I was watching Ramble. She's been playing it on her channel, and watching her try to defeat the old orc and just the issues she was having with that, and it's like I wonder if there's part glitch in that or what's going on, but I was greatly entertained by it. The game's broken.
So
yeah, it is. That's why I won't buy it on the Switch.
I think I have.
The PC version is better because the bugs have been fixed. The Switch version has issues that you can't fix it with mods.
What is your favorite mod for Skyrim though? Just let's go round robin on this. What is your favorite mod for Skyrim?
I never played modded Skyrim, so
it's been like 2 years since I played Skyrim, or maybe like a year and a half. There was one that replaces the whole game with a whole different, I think it's called like, oh God, I can't remember the name of it. It's like a complete conversion mod or something or other. I can't remember the name of it. That was good. Also, the Thomas the Tank Engine replacing the dragons. My favorite.
Okay. I'll go ahead and piggyback off of that.
Enderall. That's what it's called, Enderall.
Enderall. I was gonna say I can piggyback off that and go with my favorite one is where the dragons are replaced by the Macho Man Randy Savage.
No!
Yeah.
Took mine. It is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Hands down my
Quality
favorite.
of life.
So what is yours?
I have not played modded Skyrim. That's the thing.
You've seen it though, yeah?
Yeah. What have you seen?
I would say that Enderall is probably my favorite, just looking at it. But
Okay.
Complete conversion.
some of the stupid stuff that you see, where it's literally like you were saying, Randy
Randy Savage.
When it's something like that, it's just like holy crap, it's ridiculous. There was one where it was like cartoony dragons. I don't remember what it was. I clicked into the stream and saw it for like 10 minutes. I was like, yeah, not sure. Maybe next time. And then they didn't play it again.
So to go back to the original topic, is Diablo Original not on the Blizzard app?
No, it's not
No,
on
it
the
isn't.
app.
No.
It's not. It's only on GOG, or if you have the disc.
That's so weird.
Right.
Really?
I wonder, I really do. I'm gonna have to ask my friend what's up with that. He
And-
probably doesn't know, but I need to know.
And the thing is like the GOG launch has like an updated texture. So like, it still looks like a 90s game, right? But it doesn't look like hell. Like you can actually make out what you're looking at.
Yeah. I mean, our mutual friend was streaming it the other day, and I went over to see what the heck. Look, I never played the again, hot takes with Hippo. I never played the original Diablo. I didn't really care to go back, and we had a conversation about how I can't enjoy the old games because it's not quality of life and polished. I enjoyed watching it. I would never play it.
I think I have an answer for you, in part at least.
Okay.
Do
I-
tell.
I think the reason why they're putting it on a different site is because they can hand it over to GOG and say, hey, charge people $10 for this. Whereas if they put it out on the Blizzard
That's
store,
not
they would
really
have to.
a Blizz thing, though.
It's
But,
an
if
Activision
they-
thing.
but if they put it out on their store, how many people do you think are actually going to pay $10 without saying, hey, I still have my disc right here. Why won't you let me play it?
Okay, fair enough. That's a good.
That's an interesting point.
I think that,
100% sure that they would not get away with charging $10 for it.
yeah.
And yeah,
The-
Activision pulling strings.
The perspective I have is that GOG, there are a lot of collectors and there are a lot of people who go there specifically to show, hey, look at all of these old games that I have. So as a demographic, that's a bit different than who they're trying to connect to with the Battle.net app.
Yeah.
And so they may be trying to look at it as a pure, hey, where are we going to get the most sales? It's probably not going to be on Battle.net. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's Battle.net.
Yeah. I was thinking ArenaNet for half a second. I'm like, no, we're not back there. But it's going to be on something like GOG. For the exact reasons that Hippo said. He's not playing those old games. It's people who specifically enjoy those old games for what it is. And yeah, that's the market. So why wouldn't you introduce your game to your market? And yeah, put it at a price that's a little silly for some people who already have it, but for somebody who lost their disc or things like that, there you go.
Mhm.
Yeah, this article says that so they've had a partnership, and that they're planning on releasing Warcraft Orcs and Humans and Warcraft 2 on GOG as well.
Okay, those are old school ones. So maybe it's just
But-
something that was predates like what 2001.
According to Rob Bradenbecker, he says, quote, "This has been a long time coming, and we hope our players will be excited to jump back into these classic titles."
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe Bolts, you're right. Maybe they're just like, we don't want to deal with the like, oh, I have a CD key. Just go to GOG. We already have a partnership with them. Just deal with that.
I mean, that could be part of it as well. They're trying to offload that and say, hey, if you go to GOG, they'll honor that CD. But the other half of it just might be that they just want the money.
Well, it's hard with the original Diablo. Like, there is no CD key. There isn't.
Right.
Yeah, like that is how old the game is. It predates CD keys for Blizzard games.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Wow.
for Blizzard games. Let me qualify that. But it was because of what happened with Diablo, where they started implementing CD keys in their games.
Well, that was the age of DRM and the age of let's put CD keys in, because honestly, Diablo 2 came out, it had a key. Warcraft 3 came out, it had a key. Age of Empires 2 came out, it had a key, etc., etc. Well, no, that didn't. Etc., etc.
Etc. Right.
That was just the age in which they started doing that.
Right.
Yeah. It was the first effective means of doing so.
I don't know. I guess over.
I mean, it could be worse. I mean, I remember a game that I played. It was like in MS-DOS, and you had to have the original manual, and it would ask you random questions from the manual.
Oh.
Is that Leisure Suit Larry had something like that too, right?
I think it was during the time of Leisure Suit Larry, where it wasn't actually like, it wasn't protective, and you could just get a copy of the manual and be good to go.
Yeah.
That was around the time that original Diablo came out.
That's an interesting way to do it, though.
Yeah, they had things like that. Tropico did something like that back on the NES. Wait, no, not Tropico.
I was going to say on the Super Nintendo. That's pretty crazy.
I feel like that would be pretty unnecessary for a console, but I bet you it's still there.
Gosh, not Tropico. It's the name escapes me right now, but it was a game that was on the NES, and in order to finish the game, you had to have a reference to something that was in the instruction manual, and if you didn't have that reference, you're done.
It was NES or Super NES?
I thought it was NES.
Well, I mean, they did that in later games too. Like, there was one person that you could only get in the codec in Metal Gear Solid if you read off of the manual. That, or just randomly went through the frequencies, I suppose. But
how much work did that take, though?
I mean, game
I
packs.
don't remember that. What was that like? The original PlayStation one?
Yeah, the original PlayStation one. I'm trying to remember who it was you
I
got
don't remember
that way.
I remember a lot of stuff, but I don't remember having to go through the book.
Star Tropics.
Maybe.
Star Tropics. That's why I was thinking Tropical. Star Tropics is the game that did that. It was in the manual. There was a piece of paper that, in order to see a message, you actually had to get it wet.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that was the hidden
Okay.
message. Yeah, you had to do that. If you didn't get that message, then nope, you weren't completing it.
That's horrendous.
Old anti-piracy.
Yeah, right.
And now we just have stuff like Anthem that melts your computer and bricks it. So, bricks your PlayStation.
That was for later.
My bad. My bad.
Do we want to?
No. Don't. It was just a thought that came to mind. I forgot that it was in the show notes. I'm sorry.
With that said, let's go ahead and take a break, guys.
I ruin everything. Hi, I'm Hippo. I ruin everything.
And his name isn't even Adam. It's impressive. Yeah, let's
True.
let's
It's not.
let's go ahead and take a break. So this is a chance to get up, move around, and stretch, but don't go too far. The Newbcast will be back in a short bit. I'm impressed. I unmute the Discord and everyone's like, Q?
I was trying to sneeze right as you unmuted, but it went away.
I see.
Unfortunate.
I was
We
like,
didn't ruin it this time. This is
I tried.
definitely.
There was an
off-brand.
effort. There was
This is
an
off-brand.
effort.
maybe
Especially
this,
if you look at the light.
maybe it's just something to do with the pillars that are
Yeah.
here this time around. I don't know.
Hey, you know what? We haven't talked about the console, which must not be named yet.
Sega?
Yeah. Sure, no, that's-
yeah. Of course.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
I thought so. I
But
thought we
does
did.
that mean it has a name?
We also haven't referred to the Xbox, which is fair. Which is entirely fair.
Which part? The fact that there's another new Xbox?
Is there another Xbox?
Yeah, the
Yep.
Xbox pays for all of the games that you already purchased on disc.
So great.
That's actually pretty. I mean, if you're gonna upgrade anyway,
Yeah, there's a discless Xbox.
Lewd warning. Lewd warning for mature audiences only.
That was
you might
announced.
want to change. You might want to change the footer at the bottom to not what that says, but discless Xbox.
So for those that don't know what we're talking about, it was announced that there will be a new version of the Xbox One that comes out. The new Xbox One will feature a lack of disk drive. Yeah, that's a thing. What thoughts?
I mean, my computer doesn't have a disk drive either.
Personally, I think that this is a great boon for Microsoft because for the first time ever, they won't have to worry about losing a DVD war.
Ooh. Ooh.
See, here's my question about it, though. So
Sure.
many people buy the consoles so that they can use the Blu-ray player. Are they unofficially saying that the Blu-ray is going away?
I think the idea, that's an interesting way to look at it, isn't it? And of course, we'll still see PlayStations come out with the disc drive because Sony Blu-ray.
Yeah, that's where I'm coming from. I mean, you're talking Microsoft, who wants to start pushing completely away from DVDs and Blu-rays, but is Sony going to do the same thing? Like, who took away the jack on an Apple iPhone first? I mean, oops.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting point because that was it makes it in the, well, Blu-ray players aren't exactly expensive anymore. You can buy one on the cheap these days, so that's not a problem. If you want a Blu-ray player, just go buy a Blu-ray player. But if you're talking about when Blu-rays first came out, yes, that was incredibly important. Just like the reason the PS2 sold in Japan so well is because it was cheaper to buy that as a DVD player versus buying a DVD player. We're in a point where with the technology though, where I don't know if that impact will be the same. You know?
But the question is that the big thing that they want to start pushing is the 4K quality content. And I understand that most places can handle that, but there's still some places out there that you're pushing 10 meg maybe
Yeah.
download speed, and that is not going to cover you. You need another 5 meg at least to be comfortable streaming 4K.
Yeah. Well,
Are people really playing? Like, I know that there's definitely like a higher end gamer who does like play games at that level, but
mhm.
it still feels like it's not really a very common thing.
I'm talking
Nor
about
is it-
streaming video.
Yeah. From what I hear, nor is it particularly practical.
Well, yeah, it depends on where you are, right? Because the infrastructure just isn't there in some cases, and we're talking purely from the perspective of being someone that's in the United States, talking about our internet infrastructure. It's not there, and Microsoft still has this impression that we can do all these fast internet speeds, which is like, you're in Seattle. Of course you're going to have fast internet in Seattle and Bellevue in particular. You're going to have fast. You don't have that if you go, like, say, Tulsa.
Let's go to Odessa, Texas, and see if that turns out as well.
Right, you're alienating consumer base, which I think is weird. But
I'm 100 miles north of LA, and I don't have that. We don't even have fiber.
So
here.
the northern suburbs, right?
I mean, I have the ability to get fiber or copper at up to 100 meg, up to a gig if they run fiber down my street. But if I didn't have that, I'd be looking at 10 meg DSL.
Yeah, you know, and even here in Minneapolis, I mean, we're fortunate enough to be in a place that has a 1 gig fiber loop, which is really nice. But so there's neighborhoods that they have to deal with Comcast and your bandwidth limits, which if you're getting games, that kind of sucks. Or you're looking at 5 meg DSLs, like, yeah, that's awesome.
So they like, a lot of these ISPs, they pretend that you get the speeds, but you never do.
No,
because you're sharing the bandwidth with like the whole node.
Well,
And
yeah. If
some of them are like, oh, you're using too much bandwidth, we're gonna throttle you.
Yeah, if you're
Even though
talking
I'm
cable,
pretty sure it's against the law to do that, or that used to be. I
used to
don't know
be
anymore.
with the changes to net neutrality. I mean, that's part of, they can do
What's
that.
up in the air.
Lost to you.
Yeah. That being said, before that change happened, yeah, it was illegal to do that. Technically, you couldn't do that. Additionally, yeah, you're right. If it's cable, if you're sharing whatever's on the node, right, and if there's a lot of people on the node, you're having problems. Or if you have DSL, the further away from the DSL node you are, the lower quality of internet service you're going to have. The distance factored into DSL technology, which is
So, throwing this out here a little bit, being in the technical side of all of this, all of those nodes all run back to the same fiber loop, and that fiber loop runs back to the same fiber backbone. So, in reality, these are all just kind of dreamed up ceilings for services and everything else that they can put out there. My cable modem is perfectly capable of 1200 megabit a second transmission and reception. The thing is that they don't want to push that across the network because they don't think it's capable of it. And maybe with the traffic that you would get from a whole neighborhood, it might not be capable doing it that way. But kind of point us back to it, the Xbox is kind of pushing the issue a little bit, and so are all the streaming services that are out there. This isn't just about the Xbox. This is just about the future. What is the internet? What is it going to be?
sure. Well, and we already see that in some gaming, though. I mean, look at the digital distribution platforms that we constantly talk about on the show here. We talk about the Epic Game Store. We talk about Steam or Origin. Like, that's a way that a portion of the gaming market has already changed to, right?
I mean, that's like the biggest question right now that I've seen people discuss more and more, especially on like long form podcasts and stuff, is what is the future of the internet? Because right now things are kind of on fire. You look at the social media platforms, you see the effect on people's lives and everyday lives, depression, Facebook, privacy. You see all these issues that are coming up, and it's because the internet is like such a wild west. Like, it's still very new, and while a lot of kids are, there's only like one generation that has grown up with the internet completely. I mean, we have a lot of issues that we need to face.
Yeah.
And I don't believe the internet is going to look like it does now 10 years from now. So
The question is how?
Yeah.
How will it change? Not that.
that's a good question. How will the world change as well? But speaking of just the internet, I mean,
That's a deep rabbit hole.
We're already kind of in a rabbit
Oh
hole.
gosh. I mean, that's a deep one.
From the technical side, there's so many changes technically that are going to happen to even keep us at this point with the amount of people that are joining the internet.
Mhm.
It's got to do something to prevent some of the abuses and not impact the freedoms that we have on the internet.
Well, I mean that's part of the reason is like we had the IP changeover, right?
The
From, like,
IPv4 to
IP4?
IPv6, which still hasn't happened, especially not in America. Most of the rest of the world has pushed that change pretty heavily.
Sorry, that was probably like a very off-topic topic. My bad.
No, that's perfect.
It's an interesting point. The on the gaming side of it, I guess the other thing is that how do we suppose that impacts traditional game retailers, like say
They're gonna have to change.
Well,
I mean,
here's the
you
thing.
already see physical media just being completely eliminated, or not quite, but like it's on its
It's
way
on
out.
the path, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with physical media. This is my realm. This is where I like playing and talking. Couple things. Number one, when you're talking about how things are going to change with the internet, when you're talking IPv4 to IPv6, it's an amazing portal from the Wild West of ISPs own everything to the, well, now we're going to give every person a little bit of control over it, because you're taking that physical address that's in your computer and you're combining it with something out on the web, which anyone can talk to. All of those NAT problems that you used to see, or that you see all the time with IPv4, gone. Not an issue. Does it require different programming in a video game? It most certainly does. And a lot of them, I think, are doing that now because, as I said, most of the rest of the world is actually addressing this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Jumping from that to the physical versus virtual media, something interesting, kind of throwing it out there, and it might get a little interesting topic-wise, but some people are saying that we're contributing significantly to global warming by doing this whole streaming media deal. The cost of producing a disc and copying it and sending it out in mass versus the cost environmentally of keeping a server up to keep Taylor Swift's best hits CD online for 10 years. It might be cheaper to run the server long term because you can fit more, but it's also going to be more expensive environmentally because of all the heat, all of the hardware, all of the connection, all of the other factors that fit into it.
Hmm.
And
That's
not a lot of
that's an
people think
interesting thing. I mean, I see what you're saying.
yeah.
But I mean, it's like up front, it seems like this is a way better idea because we don't have to have the mass production of plastic and all the machines that go along with it, and then all the packaging that goes along with it. You just have boom, it's right there. You don't have to have any physical anything. But I never really thought of it in an electrical situation where you need to have more electricity, you need to have more parts for the computers and stuff for that. That's an interesting
Sure.
thing that I've never even thought about.
Yeah, because some of those component pieces, I mean, they're talking about how much. What was it? There was a tech site that was talking about how we had to reduce on the amount of cell phones that we upgrade with, right? What's the change that from just cell phones to like any computer related component? That's a lot of pieces. Like, how long before we start running low on those materials, and then what?
Well, and you're seeing it already, some of the scarcity from some of the more delicate pieces in the computer. Your memory, your hard drive, your CPU.
I thought that was more of a because of what do you call them, Bitcoin miner dudes.
I'm sure they
But-
contributed to it.
That was that nice little peak. Now we're coming back down from that peak. They're
Are we?
starting to sell some of that hardware off. Yes, they are.
Okay. See, I haven't been in the market for buying any hardware for like about a year now, or a year and a half. So when I was trying to upgrade my computer, everything was insanely expensive. Like, I remember back in my day, I picked up a 16 gigs of RAM for $80, and now it's like you're paying $120 plus for that.
Yeah.
Or it was like a year ago.
Yeah. So we're talking about how stores have to change and whatnot, but how then, and what impacts, like which way do we go on that? I mean, that it creates several different ways to look at the issue that's going on here, you know.
Well, I think one of the challenges that you're going to face is that environmentalism doesn't really come into the picture as a matter of P&L for all of the companies that are interested in this, you know. There's a lot of reason, there's a lot of incentive for things to be kept in-house as much as possible, because that gives you control, that gives you a lot of direction as to what games are going out there, what prices you have. If you can have everything on your own system, you get to choose exactly when everything gets upgraded, how, and people just have to run with it. Or people won't even realize that they have to run with it because it's just happening in the background. So for the concept of like even having a virtual console, that's very, very appealing to people who are creating consoles in a lot of different ways, especially if you can start establishing it as like a service commodity. And that's where a lot of people in the industry are talking on their direction. The environment at that point is a secondary thought for them.
Sure.
If it's even a thought at all.
I was going to say, I don't think
really
most
don't think it
places
is.
even think about it.
Probably not.
No.
A lot of them, when you're talking about that big of an enterprise, when you're talking about BattleNet, Blizzard, Activision, Epic, Steam, when you're talking about any of the big players, where do they keep their services? I'll bet you a dime a dozen that they're probably in Amazon.
Sure. AWS.
Yeah. I mean, that's where like a lot of majority of stuff is, right?
Right. So Amazon is exploring these new ways to keep it cool without impacting, but they're doing that because they want to increase their profit. It's not necessarily for the other reasons.
I mean, if it's a benefit to the environment and they're increasing a profit, is that really a problem though?
No,
I think it's a
I think
win-win.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a
But-
win-win.
But at the same time, maybe they're putting more thought into their profit. They're worried more about that. What could they do to maybe drop 5%, but add 50% to their environmental responsibility, if you will? And I'm not saying that they aren't. I'm just, these are things to think of. Everyone goes out and they buy a brand new car because it has 40 mpg. Well, that's great. What about the old car that still runs? Now it's going to go to a landfill or get part picked or whatever.
And all of the materials on it are laid waste.
Right. Yeah. Here's looking to and I have nothing against Tesla, but here's looking at the Tesla drivers. You bought this brand new car, and how many resources? How long did it take to manufacture this? What are the raw materials, etc.?
Right,
Anyway,
but isn't it more of like a
soapbox.
long-term investment in the environment? Because yes, while it does still pollute to create those cars, wouldn't that pollution outweigh the still driving that like 2006 whatever? You know what I mean? Like, because that would put out a lot of pollution. What's up?
There's a bit of a false pretense on that, though, because a lot of the people who are getting Teslas aren't running a 2006 car. They're running a 2012. They're running a 2013. And if that's not getting any use afterwards, that's a giant waste of potential. And I suppose you can take the same concept and bring it back into the console world. It's how are we effectively utilizing all of this hardware? And once it's outside of the consumer's hands, that means that there are a lot more changes that potentially can be made, which can also mean that there are potentially a lot more resources that are used. I don't know. It's a big X factor because we haven't really seen that take place. Not in the console world, at least.
It's really interesting to see where this conversation has led us, because I mean, these are serious issues that are definitely well beyond the scope of what I ever thought we'd talk about on this podcast. But I mean, there are certainly valid concerns. What I was trying to go with is like how GameStop's like is affected, especially seeing as one of the latest things from GameStop was Yahoo Finance was talking about how they're really not in trouble, and all the things that they're talking about how they're not in trouble is like no, that's not how that works. They're in serious trouble.
That's really nice of you to say, Yahoo.
What? Yahoo said that?
Yeah.
Are you sure it wasn't like an opinion piece from like the random forums?
Wait, you said Yahoo as in Verizon?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point.
I didn't realize that Yahoo was still even.
Yeah, it's that's a good point because Yahoo is owned by Verizon. Big old red there, and their input on it. I'd have to find the article again because it was someone that was I got the report secondhand. Someone else that was doing their own cover of it, but yeah, that was a discussion that came up because GameStop recently had one of their largest drops in their shares they've experienced. Compound that with the fact that Microsoft made this announcement, and it makes you wonder what the state of actual physical media the actual state of physical media is in the gaming industry.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's just free fall, straight drop.
Yep. So that's where
People
I was
just, like,
originally
bailing
thinking.
On them?
It was they didn't announce as high a profit margins as they wanted for Q4.
Okay.
There have been their most recent CEO was on the job for 7 months before mind you, this is a guy that was in the company for 15 years. He was CEO for 7 months and he resigned for personal reasons. There is a lot of stuff that there's writings on the wall that has caused for concern. And
right.
Yeah, this particular article is like, oh, it's not that bad. It's like, how do you figure?
Okay, I can understand. I definitely can understand because every time that we see like a company going through some outrage stuff that's happened, like people getting really mad and saying we're gonna boycott them or whatever. We're talking about Tesla themselves, like because Elon went on Joe Rogan's show and smoked weed. By the way, I don't know if you guys actually watched it. He definitely didn't inhale. he was a Bill Clinton. Anyway, he smoked. By the way, he was drinking alcohol the entire time, and people were like, only a little bit of people were mad. Anyway, he's definitely paying for it, right? Because now he's like technically gonna lose his security clearance because that's against the federal law. Or anyway,
it's against federal law.
Aside,
yeah.
So after that podcast, Tesla stocks dropped drastically because people started freaking out. A week later, they were higher than they'd ever been. So I could understand why people would write something like, oh, well, they'll probably be fine. But that's a different circumstance.
Yeah. They are different circumstances, and I think the horizon when it comes to physical media and how it's being sold, I kept saying that, GameStop had to change their business plan 5 years ago, and they didn't. And, well, I mean, where are they now? What do they have to show for it? They have ThinkGeek, which...
It's something, I guess.
I bought my PlayStation from them. They got some of my money.
I mean,
wow.
ThinkGeek is great because it comes up with some interesting stuff, but they've been kind of...
There's a reason they sold off.
Is ThinkGeek kind of like to gamers as what is that, goth?
Hot Topic?
Hot Topic.
Yeah, Hot Topic to goth. Oh. Yeah, that's I just feel like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that.
What a wonderful use of simile.
Yeah, that's a great example. That's an interesting question. That really is an interesting question. Kind of, because I don't think I remember a single thing that I actually like. I have to have that. Like there's things I'm thinking I've looked at and gone, yeah, that'd be kind of cool, but nothing I've had to go. I have to have this. Not in a long time.
It's
Right.
been a minute.
I think that's because you grew up though too.
Well, and Hot Topic's very much the same way, right?
I mean,
I
did
wasn't gonna
order a
say
couple
it, but-
things.
Oh,
I
okay.
haven't grown up. I still get wallets from Hot Topic every once in a while.
Do you get the chain?
Yeah,
Of course he would.
so convenient.
Of course he
Oh.
would.
Of course.
So, yeah, no. So, to bring this one to a wrap, I guess the thing I would be curious is like, do we think it's a great idea? Do we think that that Microsoft is going to have success with this, or do you think people are going to end up making a lot of noise about it because there was an issue with the original launch?
I mean, there's always going to be pushback, regardless of what you're doing, especially when you're dealing with millions of people, especially the gaming industry, when you have a bunch of like teenagers and stuff like that. There's always going to be pushback, and I'm sure there will be some in this case. But what are you going to do?
Fair enough.
Options are good.
Yeah, options are great.
As long as it's an option and not a
Exactly.
requirement, you're really not going to see the sort of blowback that I think this could potentially have.
Sure.
I definitely agree. I mean, I was talking with people about forcing features and getting rid of features on a website. It's like when you take away the feature, that's when you have the problem. But if you have a feature that people don't use, that's fine. But I mean, if somebody is still using that, it's like, why are you taking it away? So options, like, yeah, you definitely, if you're forcing it on somebody, you're gonna get blowback. But if you're, giving it as an option, and it's not really a big deal because you just don't buy it if you don't want it. No big deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I personally, I think that it's a step toward the digital age of gaming in terms of getting rid of media.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that aside from the whole thought about storing stuff digitally, downloads, all of that stuff, I think your point with GameStop was, hey, we're taking away all of these used games. But in reality, I think that has been steadily or rapidly declining in the first place. I can't personally think of many people who have been buying discs to use with their systems in some time. Most of them go to the PlayStation Network or go to Microsoft Store in the first place. So
Yeah, when I buy stuff, I don't buy the physical. I just download it.
Yeah.
right,
About the only time
I
I've
don't
bought
think
physical
you're
has been
going to
Nintendo. So yeah.
I'll be the odd person in the room then, especially with Nintendo for whatever reason, but generally with my consoles, if I've got the opportunity reasonably to get the disc at the same cost, I will do that.
I
If
don't
there is an
disagree
offer
with
that
you.
makes it worth it, to go digital, absolutely. But
I think part of the reason that I would be in the boat where I'm like, I haven't really bought a disc lately, with the exception, again, Nintendo, I've got a lot of hard copies, is because I'm usually opting for my PC anyway. So, PC Master Race. So,
I can't remember the last time I bought a disc for my computer.
yeah,
I can't. I literally can't because I don't have a ROM drive.
I mean, on the flip side of it, I am when it comes to other media, like I prefer like having a hard copy book. I prefer having the Blu-ray. I like actually like having a hard copy because internet isn't always a guarantee, and I want my entertainment once in a while. So, but that's my 2 cents.
But that's why you download it. You have it on your hard drive so that even if you don't have the internet, although nowadays like all
DRM?
the games are forcing you to, yeah, exactly. You're forced to be online, even if it's
Yeah.
a single player game.
Yeah,
That's something that I have an issue with.
yeah. No, I completely agree with you. So, how about something on a lighter note? What do we think of the Google controller image that's been floating around on social media?
So I know that you say that this is a lighter note, but as I was doing some research and preparation for this podcast, I spent like 40 minutes looking into this and the potential of what it would mean for this full virtual console, and pretty much had the entire conversation we had earlier specific to what would Google do with it.
Interesting. So we've come full circle again.
Yeah, and apparently the demo that Google had of their streaming service was pretty darn impressive technically.
Yeah,
Being able to just have a web browser that happens to have your high-resolution AAA Assassin's Creed Odyssey available for play is conceptually extremely novel.
Well, okay, so you're talking about the whole virtual console, but that's streaming your gameplay. Like you're actually talking about your streaming gameplay, which I mean you have to account for like button presses and reaction to that. Like there's a delay in that, and as impressive as it is, I don't know how feasible that is in any time soon, even with some of the technologies that are in development. Like
there's already been companies who have dedicated servers for you to play a game on and just stream it over the internet. And the problem with that is that there is a latency, and if it were so good, it would have exploded. But it's like it's not.
right.
It's been around for a long time, and it's a great idea. Unfortunately, the lag is just too much.
Here,
now,
here's exactly, and that's what it is. It's for now. I think Google is saying, hey, I anticipate in the next 3 years or so that something is going to come along that breaks that.
Yeah, I mean, look, Google might know some stuff that we don't, especially me. I'm a dummy. I don't look at this stuff. I that's not my interest. That's not something that I care too much about. And even if it were a feature or a thing that like some company was like offering, I probably wouldn't take them up on that anyway. I would probably just do the same thing I always do, you know, especially as a content creator. Like the idea is great, but I mean, could you think about that, right? Streamers without having to worry about streaming their without having to worry about the resources used, the RAM, encoding, all that stuff. It's all done on a different computer that's like really way better than anything that you could even remotely buy. Like $3,000, $4,000 computer, and you just pay for a monthly service, you know?
Yeah. It's one of the main reasons that anything that's high resource taxing is played on a console here on my streams versus trying to play it on the PC, even when it is a lot more enjoyable or even easier as a matter of function to purchase or play once you have those resources going. Yeah, it's a mess. So it's a great concept, and I can't wait to see what Google says.
Well, so, and the other thing that I think it's interesting came up. So the images that started making the rounds, of course, people were like, oh my God, look at this thing. It looks uncomfortable. It looks bulky, but it's based off what was sent to the Copyright Office, and they're not official images.
Yeah, so what you're seeing is not necessarily a hoax, but it's not what their main product looks like that we know of. It could look like that. It's a prototype.
That's exactly what it is, yeah.
As someone who actually kind of halfway likes the Steam controller over the PlayStation and the Xbox, I don't know if I'm going to get a lot of it doesn't look that bad to me.
I hate the Steam controller. I bought it thinking, oh, I need a controller for playing certain video games, and I absolutely hate it. It is by far the worst. Like the feeling, the grip in your hand, fine. I'm not a fan of the touchpads at all.
I have to say, for actually in the game, they are kind of annoying sometimes, but compared to the other controllers that I've held, it feels better.
See,
Yeah, it's just like a normal Xbox controller, right? Or
Yeah.
like a little bit bulkier.
the original huge honking thing that made your hands stream as you try to wrap around it. Yeah, which some people thought this new Google controller was going to be like. So,
It's so tiny in your hands. You're okay. To be fair, you're a freaking monster. You are a beast. You are a giant man.
So, to be fair though, that's exactly what I was just going to say. I'm not a small person, and this fits my hands like perfectly. So I think they were going more for comfortable grips than they were for actual usability.
Yeah, you know what? If the touch pads were like analog sticks, I would love that controller.
Sure.
But I can't. I tried so hard. And it's okay for certain games. Like I can use it for certain games that they don't really require quick movements, and or it depends. I mean, I could see it if you were to get used to it, it would be pretty decent. But personally, I cannot do it at all.
I think my new favorite controller is probably the two Oculus controllers. I really think that those are just, oh my gosh, they're great.
Can I go into like a little aside topic really quick?
what do you got?
Derail you guys. So we were talking about resources on your computer and stuff. I don't think we've talked about this, or maybe you guys. I don't think you did on the other podcast that I wasn't on. How do you feel about OBS and NVIDIA partnering up to make it, make OBS better for streaming and encoding on one computer?
Well,
Thank goodness.
isn't that the link that I sent you?
Did you send me a link?
I at least brought it up.
It's
My memory is terrible, so.
I think it's a great thing, but I also think that it leads to a division of the marketplace again.
Yeah.
AMD versus NVIDIA.
Mhm.
And I think you're going to see a lot of backlash against that. But that's going to mean that OBS is going to be better on this platform, whereas maybe XSplit or something else is going to be better on it.
XSplit is OBS. It's just because OBS is open, right? So it's just open source software.
Yeah.
That's what the XSplit devs took it and made it their own.
Right. No, I'm not arguing that.
So maybe they it's too early to tell, but maybe they do want to make it better for everyone and not just NVIDIA. But that doesn't seem like a company. It's not very beneficial to the company.
No.
Or maybe it is. I don't know.
I think the question comes down to exclusivity. If OBS is up for anybody coming in and saying, "Hey, you're using my graphics cards to get things going over here, and I'd like things that are running my graphics cards to run more smoothly on stream because I want to show that my stuff can perform," that's great. But if NVIDIA is the only company who has the option to do that, then yeah, you are going to get a little bit of a split. I don't imagine that that's the spirit of OBS, though. And I don't know if this is like maybe it is an exclusive partnership. That's the only thing I can think of. I think of it more as, hey, if NVIDIA is coming in and giving information and enhancing this already open software, kudos.
I'm hoping so. So one of the things with OBS that it was a concern is all the Bootstrap sources that are running. I have a friend that does QA. That's what they do for a living, and had a screenshot of all of the resources that were being used by OBS and sent it to him. It's like, this is a huge memory leak issue, guys. You need to fix this. They're like, what problem? I don't see a problem here. I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, it's right here. What are you talking about? So it's been an ongoing issue, and
well, I mean,
it'd be nice to have it addressed.
They had the recent update. What is it? The OBS 21 update, where they finally made browser sources way better.
Yeah.
I mean, before to run the scenes that I was running, it was 40% my CPU.
Yeah.
I was like, how was that even a thing, you guys? And now it's down to I don't know, 10, 15, something like that. But which is way better, but it's still you're going to be encoding and that's extra stuff.
Mm-hmm. No, you're absolutely right. So yeah, I guess it's one of those things that we have to stick a pin in and see how it plays out. But if it results in, you know, fewer resources being used and everything being more efficient, then I'm all for it. And I'm sure.
Personally,
Go ahead.
personally, I think that if they can come up with something where they can split the output off, instead of having to have these physical cards, having the Elgato card, stuff like that, which is nothing against Elgato. They have great product. Instead of having to do that, why can't I just take a stream that's coming out and split it and send one half to this program that's already open that accepts it and send the other half out to my monitor? I mean, that's what a lot of these things are doing already.
Mm-hmm.
And in reality, when I'm capturing my monitor, I'm just rehashing that information again, but I'm forcing the processor to do it on a lesser scale.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have this 2080, which I assume, even though they're not really talking about it, I'm assuming it's some sort of 8-core or 12-core or something, compared to the 1080s, which were quad-core, essentially. If you're making that jump and that assumption, why shouldn't they be able to support this?
Good question. Good question. I see more support for streaming and ways that things aren't being processed and overprocessed or reprocessed would be handy in general. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. So yeah, yes, good question. Crickets.
Chirp, 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 chirp.
Moving on, talking about all the things that we've been talking about as far as like digital distribution and different companies that are involved and whatnot. What do we think about the fact that there's another layoff that happened in the industry again this past couple weeks involving Valve this time? So not a lot goes into the details except for the fact that they've laid off 13 full-time employees and a portion of their contractors.
Do we know how big that portion is?
Great question. That's the nice thing about having contractors is you don't have to disclose that information.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of those layoffs are probably just working on one particular game or one particular line of games or one particular part of the business. But if a company goes through and leans up a certain part of the company, I mean, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. It's just a string of layoffs that we've seen in the past month. I mean, we've seen the Activision Blizzard, which of course their shareholders are suing Activision Blizzard. I'm personally rooting for Activision Blizzard on this one.
So
you had that
what I've
ArenaNet and then this, yeah.
Yeah, from what I've seen, this has been a particularly bad year for every market, not just the games industry in general. So I could understand why they would be doing that, because it's like, I mean, seriously, it's the economy's been really messed up for the past couple of months, and like, so if you guys don't know, January, February, even in March, those are like the worst grossing months for every industry.
Yep.
Because it's Christmas, Thanksgiving stuff, like in America at least, and so when that drops off, and it just kills all industry. Like there's a huge dip at the very beginning of the year, and it starts to come back slowly and slowly and slowly after March. And I'm pretty sure that they're just doing the same thing. They're like, well, I mean, we're not making the money that we need. You see it in all the gaming industry too, like you said. GameStop didn't make their quotas. Okay, well, I mean, how many other companies didn't make their quotas? How much has it dropped for other companies? You know, so I think that's kind of what we're seeing now.
Well, and as a whole, if I recall correctly, the last couple of months of economic job growth in the United States has been substantially below expectations. Like,
Yeah, I think it's just all around.
but it's been like 10% of the projected growth last month, for example.
Yeah, I saw articles about that too. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know how much that is in the context of gaming specifically, but you have to think that if you're starting to see contractions, it's going to be in a lot of the things that people see as not as important first before they'll stop spending on other things. Exactly. And video games and entertainment is going to be one of those first pieces.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I think that's what's going on. I wouldn't. What, Dizzo, was it you? I think we were having a conversation. It might have even been on this podcast. How we were saying how the games industry is kind of at a plateau when it's creating games and releasing stuff, and it's kind of going to drop down, and then the consoles are going to like come back out, and that's usually what picks everything back up. And that was like, we were talking about indies. I can't remember. It was like a month ago.
Yeah,
Right.
My brain is terrible, but you know, we were talking about that, and I think that this is kind of what we're seeing on like on a different scale.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going to pull the economy out of it. That's up to people who have far more knowledge and are way more intelligent than me. But
Right. Yeah. No. It's an interesting trend, and I think having Megan on 2 weeks ago and her insight on it was really insightful. So I'd probably refer people back to that episode and her input on those type of layoffs and what was going on with it too, because her experience definitely can speak to it pretty well, I thought.
did I just see a cat? What are you doing?
What cat?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention.
Are you drunk?
There was like, you know what you did.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I really don't.
Okay. All right.
Unreal.
Sure.
I just saw something flash on my right screen. It looked like a kitty.
It looked like a kitty.
Yeah, definitely nothing weird there, Hippo. Nothing at all.
Right.
The drugs are just kicking in. That's what it is.
Maybe it's
He's been talking about, like, you know, old civilizations and burying corpses and digging them back up, and
maybe
cats, viscera cleanup.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Getting all sorts of messed up.
I've gone on a journey, okay?
clearly. If we're going to talk about bugs and issues that Hippo is apparently experiencing, why don't we shift it from Hippo's
It's
bugs?
up here.
Right.
It's up here.
It's shifting from that to Anthem bugs and the PlayStation in particular, and PlayStation's being bricked, and the patch that's coming out that's 90 gigs
Yeah.
to fix it.
Welp.
Has any of you guys played Anthem, or is it just me?
I think it's just you.
I
so-
purposefully avoided it. I feel a personal commitment to Destiny, as awful as the journey has been with it.
Hey, you know what? Destiny. I enjoyed Destiny for like 40 hours. So
That's
I
probably
played Anthem, and my computer is not a garbage computer at all. However, it used a lot of resources, and I was like, why? Even before it came out, before release, I was like, well, maybe it's just it needs an optimization patch, which will hit. Oh, it hit. Even on PC, it's like 45 gigs. I was like, I don't know if I want to download that.
You know what that kind of tells me though, is if that's how large a content patch was to fix some of the optimization issues and whatnot, it tells me that the game wasn't properly QA'd, which goes back to something we talked about before. It's like a lot of publishers, and I'm not going to name any names, EA, wants to try to get things out the door instead of making sure things are ready to be launched and then go out the door. And now, I mean, the initial thought of what it took to troubleshoot the PlayStation bricking was it was a 5-step process that included master resets to your PlayStation and wiped everything. And it's like, that's I if I was a PlayStation owner playing that, I would be pissed if I had to do all that.
Oh, absolutely. I would be pissed because you might not be able to fix it. And PlayStation, Sony's response, their direct response to this stuff is sorry.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what their response is. Like, we can't help you.
Well, it's not their software. It's not their hardware. It's not their fault.
Right. The thing is, this has been a thing in the past with other games where it can break your PlayStation with updates. This is not the only game that this has happened with. This is just the biggest one, I think.
Yeah. I'm not going to mention other pillars that will be quick to point out that Rocket League had that same problem. But Rocket League also isn't a $60 AAA title that was been hyped since E3.
Yeah.
I feel a lot of AAA devs recently, in the recent few months, maybe like 6-7 months, have been over promising and under delivering on every step of the way. Anthem is just another one of those steps where they said, oh well, we're going to be able to have this whole situation where you can like change the story and interact with these characters and blah 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 blah. The thing is, your interaction is very limited. It's limited to press 1 or press 2. It's limited to that, and that you don't really change the story at all. It doesn't happen. The audio, you're in a marketplace, right, with a bunch of people walking around and they're talking, they're doing the animations. Literally no talking. There's no ambient noise like that. It's just outside. You're just outside. It's like if you were in a field of nothing, just maybe a tree with a bird in it. And you go out there and you're like, why does it sound so quiet and weird? Like, there's tons of issues that Anthem has, and bricking a PlayStation is a significant issue. If you're lucky and your computer or your PlayStation wasn't bricked, enjoy that 90 gig download. That's going to take another 3 hours after you downloaded the game for 3 hours or more.
Yep.
And that's on a pretty decent internet.
Well, and that also assumes that you've got the space for it. Like, I have an early PS4 that has 200 gigs. Oh, great. Now, because I want to play more than one game in my life, I have to go out and buy, a 1 terabyte external drive for it. That's going to be another $100. Great. Like, that's exactly what I wanted to spend my money on.
Yeah.
Because of an error that they made that needs to be patched in.
I've seen it, and Bolts, you might have an opinion or something to chime in on here, but I feel like a lot of developers recently have just not been compressing their games at all, or they're already compressed, but the file sizes are insane, like 60 plus gigs, even on computers, like on PC.
Well, honestly, I think that has been a growing trend since like the mid 2000s. Once you got to about 2005, and guess what hit? The internet era, when everyone could download whatever they wanted. Everyone had some sort of broadband, DSL, cable, whatever, where you had a meg or 5 meg, whatever. But they didn't care about releasing the patches. They ship games that are not complete. They ship games that break stuff. They ship games with problems that they never tested for. And part of it is, yeah, they want to get it out there, but part of it is also they aren't taking responsibility for what they're doing. One of my questions about this is, for those bricked PS4s or whatever PlayStation model, what are they doing? Are they replacing them?
Probably nothing.
You got to pay for
to
service
be
on
honest.
it. You got to pay to have it serviced and hope for the best.
I would be livid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My PlayStation that I paid for, and I paid for your game, and all of a sudden,
Your
after I
game
paid
breaks it.
$60, your game breaks my PS. Yeah, I would be livid, like red-faced rage. But instead, I have a PC.
I'll be surprised if there isn't some sort of action that you hear about shortly regarding that.
Like lawsuit wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough.
That makes sense.
You can't damage somebody's property and then be like, tough. Like,
Right.
that's not okay.
It wasn't, but it was in the user
Even
end
if it's on
agreement.
accident. Even if it's on accident. It's like,
Yeah.
do that, dude.
No, I hear you.
can't.
I hear you. No, I completely agree with you.
Yeah,
But
If I get into a
here's
car
the thing.
accident and I smash into somebody else, and it was entirely not intentional, I'll still gotta pay.
Right.
Yeah.
But the other half of this is, even if they buy the Sony repair service, whatever, well, Sony still has to deal with it. So now Sony's out a ton of money for replacing these parts.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they're under warranty and Sony just has to straight up replace them. Like,
Well, I don't think
where is the
Sony's doing any of that. It's definitely, gosh, I don't know the ins and outs, so I can't exactly say. But from what it seems like, it's the Anthem devs that are responsible for it. Or I mean, clearly they didn't go, let's make a game that ruins people's stuff, because that's what
Wow.
we want to do. They definitely didn't do that.
I guess my question is, would it be the devs that are responsible, or
Well,
is there
it's the
something-
company. It's not the developer.
It's the publishers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Is it potentially because the devs were rushed to push it out and they didn't get?
I
to test
am
it?
100% sure that's the problem.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which comes back to, hey, we're releasing games that are absolute garbage just to get them out.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not calling it absolute garbage. I'm just saying this is the level of quality that we're expecting.
The level of quality that bricks your PlayStation, which is not
Yep.
quality.
Well, a product that's been improperly QA'd, that has been rushed and not finished and polished, and thus leads to issues that were unforeseen because we didn't get a chance to test for it properly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're seeing from it.
Yeah. And this all kind of stems from the separation of Bungie and of Destiny, because it's a really good on the next beat strategy business-wise to say, oh, by the way, we actually do have this game that is very similar. You've seen it before. We're going to make sure it's available to you right now. And it was a business strategy that they couldn't actually execute on because the preparation wasn't there. It's clear. It's evident in the bugs that are happening that there was more work to be done, and they chose to rush this, and they should be paying for it. They should be paying for it a little bit more than even just like taking care of the people who have these consoles. It should be a question of, hey, the next time you have a game that comes out like this, am I going to buy it on day one?
I mean, you're talking like PR and accountability, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part of that is as well, what if you're a streamer and you only stream PS4?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That
I
would
mean,
suck. I know there
that's-
are definitely partners who have streamed and only streamed from the PlayStation, and they got partnered on Twitch. Could you imagine being like, I'm gonna play that new game that everyone's excited for, and then you can't because the thing that you make money on has been bricked by the thing that people wanted to see you play.
Yeah. That would be brutal. That would. I couldn't
That's
even imagine.
directly affecting somebody's livelihood.
Yeah.
I could see some lawsuits coming out of that to a certain extent.
Sure.
Mhm.
So again, stick a needle in it.
Yeah. I already had skepticism. I feel it's just reinforced it all.
Right.
The sad thing is, because I actually have played Anthem, the gunplay is fun. The flying around the map is fun. Like it had like it's like everyone's saying it's very much like Destiny when it first came out. It was garbage to an extent, but there were fun aspects of it. That's kind of how Anthem is right now, where, like I said, they overpromised on saying that they're going to be able to interact with the story. The sound is off. It's just there's all, and now it's bricking people's PlayStations. Like, what they were doing with it was actually really cool, but they couldn't bring it. They couldn't finish the game. They couldn't do it, and it's sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, stay tuned on that one. Before we go on to the last big thing I wanted to talk about, one little fun topic, because there's 3 of us that are commanders here. How do we think about that, or what do we think about that new Elite expansion that might be expected in late 2020?
Yeah, so I actually did see this. Bolts, I don't know, did you see the article about that?
I read a little bit on it, but not a ton.
Okay, I did. I seen it before there was even in the show notes. I read one of the developer, like the PR dudes, spiel on it, and it was very like, we're gonna do a thing. Late 2020.
Yeah.
That's it.
I just
it's like, all right, well, thank you for letting me know that you're gonna do a thing in a year and a half from now. But it doesn't affect me in any way.
The only reason I put it in the show notes is because 3 out of 4 of us are Elite players, so it's just like, we can just touch on that. It was supposed to be a light headline to cover. The big one, the last big headline I kind of saw that I thought was worth discussing is another company pulled out of the press conference pool at E3 this year. So EA this year, you can expect to see them at E3. They are not doing press conference. Yeah, so that's now Sony and EA that have pulled out of the press conference pool. That leaves what? Ubisoft, Microsoft, and what else does that leave?
I mean, are we really missing something from them not being there?
I mean, we missed wonderful music from Sony.
So what I don't mean to be like they have nothing to show, because that's not true. The problem though is that their recent releases have been flops or just bad, and they hype these games up so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
During the earlier conferences, that now it's just kind of like, well, maybe you should take a break for a year, because you don't. Do you even have something to show us that we're gonna get hyped for after the horrible PR both of your companies have
Sustained? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could always talk about the exciting things that are coming out on mobile, because that's the thing.
Oh joy! You know what? I want good mobile games. Damn it! Why is that so? Why is it such a toxic marketplace? Why can't we have good mobile games?
But
Yes.
that's
please.
that's a great
Because
question.
you don't have phones. Sorry.
Blizzard has become a meme. No, that's a good question. And there was a point where there were mobile games that looked like they were going to be really good. And then some developers started realizing, oh, it's really easy to milk people for a lot of money. And then they make it, couch pushers, where you just sit there on a couch and you push a button to do something. And there's no fail state of the game. You keep going. And you keep going.
Cow clickers are great. What are you talking about?
There's no fail state.
Hang on. I have a game that I've been playing. It's called Card Thief.
Okay.
That's an actual pretty fun. That's a pretty fun game. It's free. You can download it and just play it. You can pay. It has in-app purchases if you really want to. You don't need it. That came out like a year ago though.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to say that there aren't good mobile games, but there's very little compared to this. I just feel like it's a lazy thing to throw. Like you can make, like you guys are saying, a clicker game, right? You press the cookies, or you could actually try to make something.
Well, and I think some of the games that I've truly enjoyed that are on mobile, they're ports. One of my favorite games to play on mobile is the original Final Fantasy. Surprise, Final Fantasy. Yeah, I enjoy playing it on mobile though. Or there's so many other things. Like, the last game that was authentic on mobile, where it's like this was a truly like. I mean, there's some stuff out there that has potential. Like there's an SAO MMO type game that. The problem is so many of these mobile games that have gotchas, and it's just, if it were to lose the gotcha, like I have no problem giving money to a developer that earned money from me to buy something from them. But when it's gotcha, it's just, well, I'm done, and you exit out and you find the next game.
Yeah.
This topic. Oh no, go ahead. Go. Sorry.
There's an inherent dilemma in that mobile games don't get the attention in reviews. People don't want to check them out when reviews are made, and we all know quite a few people who show interest in it and go and do these reviews, and it doesn't turn out the same sort of viewership that like a AAA title will.
I want to point out, and I just want to remind you that the Unabridged Gamer is a mobile game reviewer. That is his job. So I'm just going to put that out there. In fact, there you go. In the chat, he just mentioned that. There you go.
So here's where I say that Elijah is very smart, because that field isn't getting a lot of attention right now. And the fact is, it's kind of a chicken or the egg scenario. The more we see good games that come across where we need to know beforehand what's going on, the more that we see games that ask for a purchase price beforehand that make us consider, hey, do we want to do this? That's when we're going to see more of these reviews. And I think that scenario begets quality game.
I think, honestly, you know what? One of the biggest impacts I think that if it hit the mobile market that really hindered it, Google Play Store. How many games came out on the Google Play Store that they were free because they were riddled with ads, and then there were gotchas? Because before the Google Play Store, when you looked at the original App Store on iOS, a lot of the good quality games that you would want to play, you had to pay for them. Even a game like Angry Birds, which, make fun of it for what you will, but it was for a time a good puzzle game on mobile. You paid for it.
You're right. I know somebody who is making an app, and the thing is, like, people generally don't want to pay for things on the mobile market.
No.
They don't want to pay. They're like, why would I pay for that, or whatever? Even if it is something beneficial to them, they're like, well,
yeah,
pay for something on mobile?
Right.
I think not.
Right. And I mean, I had mentioned my favorite mobile game to play, right? And it's a port, but it's something I had to pay for. I had to pay for it.
And here's where you bypass the challenge, because you already know that game. You already have the review of it.
Yep.
So you already have the idea that, hey, I'm going to like this.
Well,
worth the purchase.
I've written a review on the base game. I don't know how many times for how many other sites I've written for back in the day, but
right.
Yeah, no. I get what you're saying now.
You know exactly what you're getting into beforehand, and a lot of other gamers who play the Final Fantasy series know what they're getting into. So they bypass the reviewer situation. Reviews, and maybe this is the bigger message, reviews for mobile games mean nothing in the actual app itself. They mean absolutely nothing in the app itself. I pay no attention to them, and I don't think I know anybody who does. I think
that delivers another issue of which sites cover mobile games. Like, if you're to cover like which gaming news sites, like I can't really think of any that cover mobile games to any significant degree, which, maybe that is a greater issue. Maybe the Unabridged Gamer should try to, pitch his mobile game reviews to a bunch of other sites and see if other places pick up and see if that changes. Elijah, I'm looking at you. That's a very interesting point. Now, to bring this back to EA, because that was an offhanded comment making fun of the Command and Conquer thing from last year.
You know what? That game didn't look so bad. The only reason why it looked bad was because it was Command and Conquer branded.
Yep.
That's why.
I'm sorry. The Jenna's comment is what forever sticks with me when it comes to that game.
What did she say? I don't remember.
She's like, this sounds so morbid, but my husband would be rolling over in his grave if he were to see this game. Which,
now I remember.
Yeah, that exact moment is like, well,
so true.
That game got buried because she just destroyed it.
Yeah.
You're right. If it wasn't Command and Conquer, it branded. Yeah. Even if they had used everything that was Command and Conquer assets and not call it Command and Conquer, it probably would have done pretty well for itself. Yeah,
100%. Like In Control was playing, like Jeff was playing it, and it looked
poor Jeff,
pretty okay.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a thing that I want to play, but it didn't look like a terrible game that you see all over the place in the mobile market.
Well, that goes into a lot of other things too, like talking about Diablo Immortal. If it wasn't labeled Diablo, Diablo,
you know what? That's not even the case. If it wasn't announced the way it was announced,
that's
if it
true.
wasn't announced the way it was announced, it would have been fine. The problem is the problem is that they didn't announce what they want. Everybody wanted them to announce, and then they were like, kind of like, wait, what do you mean? Why are you mad that we're only talking about a Diablo game on mobile?
Yeah.
And it's like, are you kidding me? People literally paid to be there for this announcement, and you're giving them shit. Like, don't you have a phone? Is like I cannot tell you how many times.
I think we've heard that joke 3 times tonight. I mean, yes, we've heard the joke. Look,
like,
so
the only reason why it's such a crappy idea is because it was announced the way it was announced. It leaves a bad taste in gamers' mouths because we all know that the mobile market is toxic, and then the way it was announced was just like, take it, and we're like, that's not what we want though.
So back to the original topic at hand here with E3 and press conferences. Do you guys think that E3 is becoming less relevant?
Less relevant.
I think that there's always going to be like necessary conventions and stuff.
Sure.
I don't think it's really. I don't think it's becoming less relevant. Maybe because there's so many other conventions being made.
PAX.
Right. I mean, but PAX has been around. Those are well established.
It's well established, but I think they're another forum for developers to be like, come check out our game. It's not all E3 anymore. Which that's been. I mean, E3 was originally a way to showcase video games and what's going on in the industry, because it was originally part of the electronic conference that was every year.
Yeah,
the General Electronics Show, GES.
Yeah, that's what it is. See, I'm like fairly new into this games industry, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought that's what it was.
Yeah,
I was really confused.
E3 spun off of GES because the first E3 like presentations that occurred, they were tucked back into a corner of GES, and they're like, no, we want to showcase this stuff, and they spun off and made their own conference, which became the massive juggernaut that was E3, and then we started seeing other cons starting to do their things, and then.
Consumer Electronics Show or whatever, right?
Oh yeah, it was Consumer Electronics Show. You're right, CES. Sorry.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking G.
That name rung a bell. That's all I'm saying.
It was the annual electronics show, right? But that's what happened there, and they were the only ones. That's why E3 was such a big thing for as long. They were the only conference. You know?
Yeah, it became the one point where you could compare your product to everybody else in a single mostly similar platform.
Right. And now, especially with circling back on the internet and how easy people have access to press conferences at other places, you have the Diablo Immortal announcement, or as a joke, but I mean, how many announcements have come at BlizzCon? How many announcements have come from PAX now? How many have come from other gaming conventions? There are other kids on the block now.
I think what you're seeing is you're seeing a lot of subcons, and like you're saying with BlizzCon and PAX and such, I think it's the same thing that's happening with the launchers, where hey, we're Blizzard, we're gonna have our own announcement at our own show. Like, if you don't show up, then whatever.
Well, and I agree with that to a degree, but even Blizzard has done an announcement at PAX before. They announced Hearthstone at PAX East.
Are you sure that's not just a, hey, you just announced this, now we want to make the headline?
That's a good question. You know,
How hard is it? How hard is it from like a journalistic standpoint for people to cover these things, right? Because now that there are so many cons, who's gonna go to what con? Because we know they're gonna be announcing something.
well, for the bigger gamer sites, like, they've got the money to do it, especially with the way that they diversified. But as far as in like any other gaming website, like, yeah, people tripping over themselves to write for gaming news websites. Which
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah, people can have their own event, and eventually it's going to trickle down to everyone, even if it was very limited people, just simply for the factor of, oh, look at me, I'm exclusive, I get to tell about this thing that nobody else knows about this big company that I care about. So yeah, there's less concern for that, I think, and the internet makes everything a lot easier.
yep.
The comparison now is what's going, like, if I'm choosing between different games, it's what's going on right now that I like.
I heard it and I couldn't unhear that as soon as you said that. I'm like, yep, there we go.
And I said it.
Yep.
Be stuck in my head now.
You're welcome.
You're amazing. You're amazing.
I don't know.
But yeah, you can make that comparison at any point just to be able to say, okay, what's the most recent news that XYZ company has given me about what they're doing?
Right.
Where do I want to spend my money now?
Well,
so on a consumer end, that's all good. On an investor end, which I could see that being the main reason why E3 would still be of major interest.
well, you talk to anyone. You talk to anyone that goes to E3, and that's what they tell you. What it is, it's a. I do not know how many times I've heard people that have gone to E3 and talk about how it's a big investor's circle jerk. Like, that is what I cannot tell you how many people I've heard that from that go to E3. It's not for consumers, it's for investors. Maybe that's why they're different, and maybe that's maybe something that ties into why Sony and EA pulled out, and we don't know something that's going on in that realm. Whereas like PAX or any other of those conventions are still consumer driven. Yeah, I suppose because the rest of the cons they're not trade shows, they're cons. So I don't know. I originally wanted to do something with E3 this year and involved you guys, but if things keep pulling out, I don't know if I'll ever had the chance to pitch it to you guys. So whatever.
TwitchCon it is.
Yeah.
You
I'll see
can
you there.
always pitch something. We won't know what it is until it actually happens.
Right.
Maybe we will just want to hang out and chat about how everybody is doing nothing, and we're just sitting there watching people talk about EA games on stream. And that's the intention, right? Is that EA is getting a whole bunch of streamers to play their games at E3.
Oh
Do I
shit.
have that about right?
Yeah.
sounds about right.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely dead on. That's an interesting way to put it.
So the influence level, that might be some E3. Like, who are they trying to get? What's the monetization look like? And how do we feel about the people who are doing it? I mean, that might be a relevant integrity conversation that comes up in the future, but we'll see.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So speaking of other industry news and whatnot, the last thing I think I wanted to cover is speaking of leaked images, there's a supposed leaked image going around of Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie.
Yes, I love that so much.
Yes. Please show it. Please show it, Mish.
So you remember earlier when the screen went black and I was trying to do something? That was me trying to get.
I thought it was a kitty.
No, not when you thought it was a kitty.
That was earlier today. Hippo.
Yeah, at towards the beginning of the stream when the screen went black, we were still talking the audio portion of the podcast.
Oh yes,
Yeah, that was me actually trying to get a display capture of this monitor so I could pull stuff up like that, so I could show. But it's not working, so I'm unable to do it.
We'll post a link in chat so people who are here can at least see it.
Right. So, yeah, there's an image of Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and oh, does it look horrible? It looks so bad. Here, does this have it? No, that's just the silhouette. So, it's what happened? I mean, what happened to this? That does not look like Sonic. He doesn't even have gloves. He doesn't even have gloves.
See, I was going to directly draw from the Sonic to the whole Pikachu in the Pokemon movies.
But I thought the Pokemon looked really cool. The Pokemon look really cool.
Okay, don't get me wrong. They're going for a very dark theme on the Pokemon.
Yes, they are.
And I kind of like that idea.
I like it too.
Yes.
I literally like it.
I'm excited for that movie. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm gonna go
Also,
see
Sonic,
Yeah.
I don't go see movies. I'm gonna go see it.
Oh gosh, I don't know, guys. I've seen some video games turn into surprisingly movie, and you know how you get the Super Mario Brothers? That's how you get the Super Mario Brothers movie. You take a director that wanted to make a dark, dystopian movie.
Oh,
bring him in.
Hold on. There are documentaries on how that became such a train wreck. How the Mario Brothers movie became a train wreck. There are documentaries on it.
I loved it when I was a kid. Now that I'm an adult and I watch it, I'm like, ah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Right.
So, here's my thing about video game movies. Is they either try to focus on the lore, which there's a bunch of games that have almost no lore. Like literally, what is Sonic the Hedgehog other than the story about him doing different things? That's great. That's great for running a video game. But maybe not for a movie.
Well,
That's a terrible premise.
But
here's
when you're talking about... just let me finish quick.
Okay.
When you're talking about something like World of Warcraft, where there's this long lore story, and they've got all of this stuff to pull from, and you can make a story about how this happened, I think that is good and bad. It's good because it's a good story. It's bad because most of the time it's already told in the video game.
Yeah. Well, they have to cut pieces out, and it kind of makes it go. Wait, you're like, wait, what? How did that happen? Because they have to skip over for the sake of time. Or a movie is like what, an hour and a half, 2 hours. So it's like, you're not gonna be able to tell a good story. Well, you could, but I mean, look at the Lord of the Rings, right? People are obsessed with that. I almost said that game, that movie, but it's also like fucking 18 hours of movie.
Yeah.
So.
You know, it's funny. It's funny that you bring up the World of Warcraft movie, or Warcraft rather. It's not World of Warcraft. It's Warcraft. It's based off the first game.
How was it?
I enjoyed it, although there were portions, and Crafty would tell you, where I was watching it in the theaters, like, that's not how that happened. That's not how that happened.
Nerd.
That's no.
I agree with Michelle on that one. It was kind of cringy at times.
Oh my.
Garona was not a half orc, the way that they're implying. Oh
Can
my
somebody
lord.
Click the link and look at what Lexi posted in the chat.
Oh god.
I'm afraid to, but since
That's,
it brought up.
that's the next. That's the next movie.
Oh shit.
Live action
Well,
Simba.
At least they cast James Earl Jones as Mufasa again. Small points for that. Small points for that. No, so
No.
Look at Dizza,
it's
gee.
Mufasa.
Dizza.
Oh.
We weren't questioning it.
No. Anyway. Gosh, that's
I
something.
feel sick.
Oh man.
Still not as bad as Bowser and Mario Bros. But
Oh my god, no.
what can be? What can be?
So okay,
Lots of stuff.
we saw this. We saw the internet react to the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. But let me ask all of you guys this round robin: what was your favorite video game movie?
Super Mario Brothers. I'm sorry. It's so kitschy. It is so kitschy and so awful that I can enjoy it for its awful.
Okay, that's fair. I'll give you that.
I don't have one.
What? Not a single one.
No. They're all bad.
Hippo.
Every single one is bad.
Just
Every
the-
single one.
Resident Evil.
I mean, only because you got to see boobs. I mean, there. That's the only saving grace. That's the only saving grace. Like, that movie is bad.
Mila Jovovich. Sure. Okay.
She's gorgeous, but the movie was not.
What-
Does the Lego movie count?
Ooh, that's a hard one.
Because
Does it?
technically you had a bunch of Lego games and then they're like, oh, let's make a Lego movie, and then they made a game off the movie. So I
Chat,
feel
somebody in chat, please help. Somebody must have input
Somebody
on
make a
this.
decision on this.
See,
Because I can't. This is terrible.
if the
This is
game,
not a horrible.
if the the movie, the game came out as a license to the movie, then I would say that doesn't count.
okay. If that's the case, I'm gonna have to go with World of Warcraft or Warcraft. Only because I haven't seen any other ones, unless Tron, but I don't know.
Tron was like its own thing. What, is that really based on a movie or a game?
No,
No.
but there was a game that I don't know. I'm gonna just go with Warcraft.
Okay.
Even that is tough because it's like I haven't really seen any other ones because I just look at it and I'm like, no, I don't want to ruin the game.
Yeah.
Lexi, please. She says 1995 Mortal Kombat.
I mean, okay.
Okay.
I didn't even think about that. one.
Yep.
And that's not my
That's,
favorite. None of them are my favorite though.
I mean,
I mean, that's definitely true.
But it was a decent movie. I mean, it was cheesy as hell. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it for what it was, in an era where every other video game movie that came out was utter hot garbage.
I agree with you. They're all hot garbage.
This one wasn't horrible. The second one was horrible. The first one was cheesy but watchable.
Street Fighter was fun.
Oh God.
When you finally got to fighting, it was good. I like how they were like, we're gonna tease combat like the entire first half of the movie.
Lara Croft.
I was watching it with a whole bunch of friends, and I literally fell asleep halfway through because I was like, I am done with you guys not actually fighting.
Lara Croft.
Okay, you know
Anyone?
what? I will say Raul Julia made that movie. Everybody else, even Jean-Claude Van Damme, like, just get out. Please, let's not make a Tekken movie.
Well, I think that might exist as an animation one, but see,
All
Bolts,
right, Google.
Bolts, I'm with you. Oh, it's that or Silent Hill. The Silent Hill movie was pretty decent too, I thought.
No, it is a movie.
Tekken's a movie.
2009.
Oh,
Tekken is a movie. I don't know. It's definitely a fighting movie.
yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, nope. I'm gonna go with Warcraft or Silent Hill.
All right, fine. Those are like the better ones,
Those-
even though they're hot garbage still.
I definitely need to go see this whole Detective Pikachu thing when it comes out because I am interested in that.
I want to
Yes.
see it too.
Yes.
I want to
I'm-
see it too.
I'm interested because Ryan Reynolds, but I'm uninterested because I don't actually get to.
You don't
Your
actually
audio
get to
cut
what?
out.
Yep, that was an audio
Oh.
cut.
That's unfortunate.
You don't
He's
wanna
like, I don't
repeat
remember what
that,
I just
do you?
said.
Yeah, I can't remember how disappointed I am that I don't get to see Ryan Reynolds actually.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I was
Fair
about to
enough,
say
fair enough,
that
fair
would be too amusing if that happened again.
Yes, I mean Ryan Reynolds is a gorgeous man. So I mean,
All right, guys. So
I'm glad Twitch didn't mute on that one.
right, well, Discord, but I digress. I think we've made it to the end of the show. Then, before we go, and before we do the things that we do at the end of the show, we're gonna go around and shill our channels quick. And to do that, we'll start off with our guest, FlyinBolts. Bolts, what do you got coming up on your channel? Where can we find you?
Okay, you can find me on Twitter, FlyinBolts T. It's supposed to be FlyinBolts TV, but they cut it off because Twitter. Nice try, Lexi.
they did.
Oh, yeah, it did work. Also on Twitch, FlyinBolts is my username, and I've been doing a ton of Elite Dangerous. It's kind of my 3/4 game, so 3/4 of the time I'm playing it. And then I'm trying to throw some other games into the mix, doing The Forest, doing some World of Warships, actually. I picked that game back up a little bit.
I re-downloaded it just so I could play with you.
Yes, that's about time. Some Viscera cleanup detail, which I haven't played in the last couple of weeks. I need to.
Well, it's your fault because I play it
know.
every week on Friday.
It's completely my fault. I love community. That's what I'm all about. I'm here for you guys because I'm here anyway. So I'm out there playing the games.
I'm here anyway.
And
I might as
want
well
someone,
be.
Yeah, I want someone to just hang with. I'm here to chat. I'm not here to really shill anything. So,
Right on.
but yeah, that's me. I'm FlyinBolts.
Cool.
I wear plaid. Wait, Kippo.
You
Hey,
ban?
hey.
Can we
You
can we ban him?
Hold on a second. I didn't
Can we
finish.
ban him?
I didn't finish. I wear plaid because I saw the health benefits. This is the part where we cut to
Okay.
Hippo.
All right. All
Nice
right. No
recovery.
more unbanned bolts. I'm sorry.
Nice. I think this is a
I-
great
I-
time to lead to Hippo. Where can we find you? What do you got coming up on your channel?
Right here, Hip Anonymous on Twitch, or hippo.wtf is my website. You'll find everything you could possibly want and more there. Tomorrow, starting at 3 p.m. Pacific, we're going to be doing a 12-hour stream for hanging out, and yeah, just it's going to be a 12-hour stream where we just play a bunch of games to hang out. We're definitely playing some Viscera cleanup detail. Bolts won't be there because I scheduled it specifically so that he can't be there the whole 12 hours or any of the hours
Or ever again.
or ever again because I'm banning him. And then also the rest of the week, I won't be streaming Tuesday, but the rest of the week we're probably going to be playing 2 Point Hospital because there's a huge DLC dropping on Monday of next week, which we will be playing.
Okay. Cool.
Awesome.
Nice. Dizza, where can we find you? What do you got coming up on your channel?
You know where you can find me. I'm on the internet. Everywhere, pretty much, is DizzaG. So you can find me on Twitter, on the Discords, on the Twitches, on the pretty much everything under the sun. We wrapped up Final Fantasy VIII, and we will be playing some Mass Effect as soon as I can get the system to work on things. I play RPGs on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you want to enjoy something consistently and make sure that you don't miss Tuesday and Thursday evenings, every other day, it's going to be something that you probably don't care about missing the storyline on. So mostly Dragon Quest, stuff like that. all of those good, delicious, wonderful things. Maybe something random. I don't know. We'll find out. It's chaotic. It's awesome. And it's mostly on Twitch.
Okay.
So I guess check there first and then get Dizzy.
Universal branding is the best thing, especially when people can't spell your name.
Yep.
That's why I got hippo.wtf, because people can remember that.
Nice. And then coming up on my channel, we've got more community goal work coming up on Tuesday in Elite Dangerous. Will be liquid oxygen and water. We'll be doing mining and Elite stuff. I also want to see maybe about going back to Jurassic World. There's a couple other like community-based games I would like to do on stream as well, just to switch it up a bit. And that'll be on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday this week. And yeah, that should really do it for us. For FlyinBolts, Hipponymous, and Dizzy, my name is Miss Michelle Jean. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great night.
Swing your arms from side to side. Let's go and do the Mario. Everybody together now, right? Yeah? No?